Sergeant Arms, please secure the doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, we will have the invocation from earlier today, if there are no objections, service as our evening invocation. Has everyone recorded their presence? Almost. Senator from Baltimore and Harford County. Excellent. Clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is yet again in session. All right, Senators, a couple of quick notes, administrative notes. We got a long night, so we've got a lot of work. We're going to go as far as we can. However far we can get tonight will be a big indicator of whether or not we have to be in on Saturday. So just keep that in mind. Also, please, Senators, again, know that everyone had busy voting sessions, a lot of work happening. If you need to have a side conversation, if you need to be on the phone, please step off the chamber or step off the floor. We are going to open the lounge, so we can have a lounge again. Socially distant. There are fewer chairs in the lounge. Please keep masks on. But it's a long evening, and But now that we are at nearly herd immunity here in the Senate, we have a little bit more leeway when it comes to space. So, please, if you've got to do some business elsewhere, the lounge will be open. Please do not do it on the Senate floor. Let's see. Any other announcements before we jump in?
Mr. President?
Yes, Chair recognized Senator from District 5.
Just a moment to make a special announcement, if I might. This is normally the role of our protocol co-chairs who do a great job. But today's a very special day. It's always the quiet ones you have to watch out for. But this senator, who frequently is resplendent in a dashing bow tie and has some of the best Zoom backgrounds I've ever seen, someone I've had the pleasure of working with since he arrived in the Senate. It is his birthday today. I'd asked the body to give, if I may use the senator's name.
Senator may proceed.
Senator Charles Sidnor a rousing happy birthday. Woo.
Flush with resplendency. Excellent. Thank you, Senator. Thank you for that observation. We are hoping our dear colleague, there's no better place that he would rather be. And while we're at it, I do have to say, Catherine Kardash on my staff, it is also her birthday today. So I don't know if she's tuned in, but happy birthday to Catherine as well. All right. Any other announcements before we get moving? Nope. All right. We don't have to do the journal because we were just in recess. So let's go back to where we were, to the special order calendar. This is calendar number 30, and we'll start right back up. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 683, Senator Kramer, election law, permanent absentee ballot list. Question is on the adoption of the amendments offered from the floor by Senator Reedy.
All right, I think we may want to special order this for 15 minutes. We're waiting for that opinion from the Attorney General's office. We have? Oh, they're reading it. We'll special order for 15 minutes. If there are no objections, Majority Leader moves to special order the bill for 15 minutes without objection, so ordered. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 800, Senator Patterson, Inmate Training and Job Act of 2021. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the two committee amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Oh, Chair recognizes Senator from Prince George to sponsor the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have an amendment. 473-2201.
2201, moment, Senator.
Colleagues, this amendment is before you pursuant to an inquiry from the senator from the 34th District and a letter that I received yesterday from the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correction. And a quick summary, correction had some concerns about the access of inmates with the internet system. So I do have some amendments that I think hopefully will clear that up. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 states on page 5 of the bill, in line 7, strike virtual and substitute substitutable. And in the same line, after format, insert as indicated by the pilot program in consultation with the Commission, Division, and applicable institution of post-secondary education, whether virtual or non-virtual. And under the committee amendments, number 2, strike beginning with each in line 4 on page 1 and down through education, and on line 2, page 2, substitute courses and instructions are provided in a suitable manner as indicated by the pilot program in consultation with the Commission, the Division, and the applicable institution of post-secondary education, whether virtual or non-virtual. And on page 2, line 2, strike and program and substitute and add 3, which states on or before June 1, 2022, create a process and a system in coordination with the Commission to develop a hybrid, virtual, and in-person learning environment in the Division's statewide system. Mr. President, I move for the adoption of those amendments, and I ask the body to support me.
Senators move the amendment. Discussion on the amendment. Chair recognizes the senator from District 34.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank the bill sponsor for recognizing my concerns and then for his work in actually developing this very common sense solution. So I would be voting green on the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on the amendment? If there are no objections on the amendment, we will adopt the amendment. All right. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 800 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Let's start this special order calendar, and then we'll jump back to the prior bill once we've hit about 15 minutes. Clerk, this is special order calendar number 29. Clerk, read the first bill.
Senate Bill 622, Senator Edwards, income tax, subtraction modification, donations to diaper banks and other charitable entities. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable report.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee, or bill sponsor.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry. I was wondering why I was on here. Are we still on the hold?
Yes, chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I apologize to the senator. I failed to let folks know that we were going to keep holding this for another day. So if we could do this at the appropriate time tomorrow, this and the next two, we are getting some clarity. We still don't have anything in writing, but we have some reports about the way in which to interpret tax laws that relates to the stimulus money.
Okay, so the senators move to special order the bill. Any objections to the senator's motion? If not, the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time tomorrow. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 769, Senator Hester, income tax credit for venison donation, alterations, extension, and testing for chronic wasting disease. Questions on the adoption of the favorable report?
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Special order to the appropriate time tomorrow,
Senator's
please.
moved. Any objections to the senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 778, Senator Eldridge, Regional Institution Strategic Enterprise Zone Program alterations. Question is on the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable report.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Special order till the appropriate time tomorrow, please.
Are there any objections to the senator's motion? Without objection, so ordered. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 35, Senator Feldman, Procurement, Prevailing Wage Applicability. Bill is on second reading and open to amendment.
All right, Senator, Senate Bill 35. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Amendments to the bill or its title? Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you. Sorry, there's a lot going on over here. Yes, I have an amendment 373822/1.
822. One moment, Senator. Senator may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I want to thank the floor leader for working with me on the amendment. Some of the floor may recall our back and forth asking if this would affect legislative bond initiatives because those are smaller in the size. My concern was that it would hurt the impact, the positive impact of the legislative bond initiatives by requiring the prevailing wage requirement on this. So this exempts. We worked with the finance staff. It would exempt miscellaneous grants, and it exempts House and Senate bond initiatives.
Senator has moved the amendment. Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill.
Yeah, another reason before I make a statement, because we put in these initiatives for dollar figures, it's very difficult to track the broader picture of what the size of these projects are. So from an enforceability or even knowing what projects would even be subject to prevailing wage, I think this bill applied to our bond bills would be highly problematic. So for that reason as well, we consider this a friendly amendment, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. And just to double check, Chair of the Capital Committee, have a chance to take a look. Just want to make sure this is on the...
I have not, but I will follow up, Mr. President.
Great. Should be good, though. I think we're covered here. All right. No objections to the senator's amendment. Any objections to the senator's amendment? Any further discussion? If not, the amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 35 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right. We're just at about 15 minutes. If we can get back to Senate Bill 683. This was Special Order Calendar 30. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 683, Senator Kramer, Education Law, Permanent Absentee Ballot List. Questions on the adoption of the amendments offered from the floor by Senator Reedy.
Questions on the adoption of the two amendments. Chair recognizes the minority leader.
Is this the two amendments, or did we offer an amendment?
It is the senator from District 5's amendment that had two amendments within it.
Gotcha. Would the floor leader or committee chair yield for a question?
Will the floor leader yield?
Sure.
Senator may proceed.
So, just so we're on the same playing field, based on the information you've got from committee staff and all that, where do we stand as far as what Marylanders can do to have a ballot and take it to Board of Elections? And in two cases I know about, the agent and then somebody who's not an agent, just Joe Marylander.
No, thank you. And I think we both read the AG's letter of advice. No one can go around soliciting assistance to completing a ballot. If someone wants help, they can suggest someone get the form to be an agent. They can actually pick up the ballot, work with the individual in their home, and then return it. That is called an official agent. That is someone you have actually selected. So you can't do what happened in North Carolina. It's against the law to go door to door and say, did you receive your ballot? Can I help you with it? It's against the law in Maryland. One thing that is allowed is if your ballot is sealed, it's in an envelope and closed, another individual can drop that off in the drop box. However, if it's not delivered, that's also a crime. So in other words, the law says that you can be prosecuted if it's not delivered. And as we know, with the current system with the State Board of Elections, you can actually track your vote, that it's been received. So yes, someone can collect it if it is sealed. They can only work on it if it's unsealed and give advice if they're listed as an agent.
Okay, so that's a little different what we heard on the floor before, because
Is that your understanding of the AG's advice?
most of it, and that's why I'm having some questions. So earlier today it was stated, if you brought 10 ballots into the election place, it would raise eyebrows and they wouldn't allow it. So we've clarified that they can bring in 10 or 20 or 1,000 if they want, under current law, as long as they're sealed, correct?
If you're at a retirement home and you say, I'm going to take my ballot to the drop box, and 3 people say, here's my sealed ballot, they can take it to the drop box. It's legal. If it doesn't arrive, and when you check your ballot online and see that it didn't arrive, that person can be prosecuted. If someone goes knock, knock, knock on 20 doors and tries to ingratiate themselves and solicit involvement, the only way they can do that if there's a letter of agency. But I think if someone came in with 50 letters, agent letters, or 50 agent forms, the State Board of Election is going to be very concerned.
Okay, but in the case somebody can bring 50 or 100 or more, as long as they're sealed, they can bring them into the Board of Election for somebody else, correct?
In which case, Senator?
When the envelope is sealed.
Yes.
Okay. Can someone send out an email blast and say, I'd like to help you. We're going to be doing a ballot collection. Can help you take them to there. Can they send an email out and say, and not tell them how to vote or anything like that, but just saying we're going to have, get the vote out for Senator so-and-so, and we're going to have a drop-off area at our local whatever, or whatever. Is that permissible or is that against the law?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What do you mean a drop-off area?
It could be a parking lot or wherever. In other words, can they do that? Is that not against the law? And then can they follow up with emails?
If they say, once they're sealed, we will deliver them, that is legal. And then if they tamper with it, it's against the law. Or if they don't deliver them to the drop box, it's against the law. If they say, come in with your open ballot, we're going to give you advice, it's against the law. That's the current law.
Okay.
And so if anybody abuses it now before this bill, that's the policy that exists in the state of Maryland.
Okay, thank you.
All right, question on the amendment. Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Attorney General's letter, as they often do, brought some clarity, but there's something there for sort of both sides of this to seize onto. But I just want to make it really clear. I don't believe there's anywhere in this country where you can take someone's ballot and fill it out without that being a crime, or without it being a serious breach of election law or election procedure. Unless, I suppose, if they're agent, where you register as an agent to help somebody who can't fill their own ballot out, then that's allowed. But basically, that's not really the issue here. The issue with my amendment, what I just want to make sure, and based on the questions back and forth and the answers, this is not a gotcha amendment. This is not a election fraud versus non-election fraud amendment. This is simply saying we don't want, as a policy of this state, to have anybody going around collecting sealed ballots by the dozens or the hundreds. Even if perhaps they're not allowed to do, even if they were to destroy that and that's a crime, we don't want the practice there to be somebody going around and collecting these ballots and having a huge stash of them and dropping them off places. We don't want that. So what my amendment simply says is, It does not get into whether, if you're an agent for 3 or 4 people to help them with their ballot, that's fine. That's not what my amendment does. My amendment just says that a person may not pick up and deliver more than 10 absentee ballots during an election. You can't do it. And 10 seems like a reasonable amount for somebody who might have several friends or a large family. And so I would actually press my amendment, only that I think this makes this bill, it actually adds some security to this bill, makes anybody that's a little nervous about setting this up feel a little better, but it also makes sure that we're not going to have, as a policy of the state, people being able to pick up 25, 30, 50, 100 ballots, even if they're sealed, and saying, I'm your precinct captain, I'm here to take your ballot. We don't want that. So this amendment, I think, would bring some clarity to it, and so I would press my amendment.
Senator moves the amendment. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Senator, I hear that, but it doesn't say completed ballots. I mean, it's unclear what we're trying to achieve in this amendment. In other words, there's pickup incompleted ballots from the Board of Elections. It doesn't say completed and sealed ballots. So even the wording of again, I don't want to complicate it. I don't think any of us wants fraud. There are laws in place in Maryland to prohibit that. But I just don't think this amendment does. One, I don't think it does anything, but two, I don't think it even does what you intend it to do.
All right, questions on the amendment? Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Yeah, I just have clarification because I'm trying to talk to people, figure out what the AG opinion said. Could I maybe have the senator from District 34 that requested the opinion? I just have a question for him on that.
Will the senator yield?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So the debate is on, so everyone understands, ballot harvesting and what California did, which I cited earlier, and some other states. They allow a third party to go around and pick up ballots. So basically, in California, it's basically become an arms race out there. Both sides do it, in that you pay campaign staffs, the unions go out there, volunteers, everybody, but it's a big paid effort. And you pay people to go out and collect completed ballots and drop them in. And when I'd asked the chairman earlier, he said, no, you need an agent form, and it was 1-for-1. What does the Attorney General opinion, does it specify on a completed ballot how many you can turn in?
Sure. What he says is, quote, I'll just quote this, in conclusion, in answer to your question, while there is no limit on the number of absentee ballots an individual may gather from voters and return to the Board of Elections. All right, so if it's a sealed ballot, there's no limit on the number of sealed ballots that you can collect. There's a separate provision that the chairman was talking about where I'm going to go and get you a ballot and take it to you and get you to vote it and then take it to you so you can vote it, and then I'll bring it back to the Board of Elections. That requires a separate form, the form for each one of those. But as to if I go to your door and say, do you have a ballot and it's a ballot, and you hand me the sealed envelope that you would otherwise, in the form that you would otherwise drop it in the drop box or give it back to the Board of Elections, if it's in that form, I could gather an unlimited number of those.
Well, thank you very much, Senator. And so I just pulled up a Washington Post article here. I mean, it explains California passed a law in 2016 allowing a third party to collect ballots. And their ballot collection programs is what they call them. And so I think, one, it's important the body understands by the expansion of ballots being mailed out, and if our law seems to be permissive to allow ballot harvesting, that's obviously a policy decision by the body, and that would have an impact on the way that elections are run in the state of Maryland, and that's a policy decision the body should make. I would prefer that we adopt the senator from District 5's amendment that says that we won't have ballot harvesting and we won't be paying people to go out and collect hundreds of ballots. So I would urge passage of the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the senator from District 10.
Colleagues, not everything that's possible is feasible. If you don't know a person, you've got no relationship to that person, and you've bothered to get yourself a ballot, which means you had to either go online or make some extra effort to get it if you didn't go somewhere to get it in person. you're not going to give away to somebody you don't know, that you have no relationship with, your ballot. That just would not make sense. So it is possible for somebody to walk around. Anybody who cared enough to get the ballot is a serious voter wanting to express their will. And how would somebody manage to get hundreds of ballots by just walking around talking to people in the world at large? This is so improbable that it doesn't make sense. None of us wants corruption in terms of voting or the use of ballots. But what you're trying to legislate against, if you lived in a senior citizen home and one member of the home is still driving and said, I'll take the ballots for the people on my floor because I'm going to take mine to the drop box or wherever, you might end up with 5, you might end up with 12. I don't think we can come up with an arbitrary number to try to rule against a crime that is so highly improbable to happen to most people who cared enough to want to vote and to have filled out a vote, to have sealed it appropriately, which means the person carrying it cannot tell for whom you voted. For us to go to this length of trouble to avoid something that is grossly unlikely to even happen. That's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator from District 34.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the floor leader or chairman would yield for a question, please.
Will the floor leader yield? Appears so. Senator may proceed.
Sure.
Thank you. So I know that currently under the law, as a candidate, I can go to or a party official, I can go to the Board of Elections and say, can you give me the list of people who asked for ballots? Give me the absentee voter list. And these days you get it pretty quick because it's all computerized and you can kind of keep ahead of it day to day. As soon as they file for it, I can get the list and I get updated. Would that list that I can currently get for the absentee voters, would this list, these folks who under this bill get those absentee ballots, would that be treated in the same way that I could get a list?
Could you repeat the question, Senator? I'm trying to understand it.
Sure. So I'm wondering if this, I just described how currently under absentee ballots, I can get a list as a candidate or a party official. I can get a list of who in a particular area, my county, for example, requested an absentee ballot. Would I be able to do the same thing under this bill, which allows you to get these absentee ballots? Would I be able to get annually the list of folks who are being mailed out absentee ballots under this bill?
Senator, just like you can buy the list of registered voters and the people who requested an absentee vote, other people could also have that list. What they can't do is start knocking on doors and say, have you completed your ballot? If not, can I help you? That's against the law.
Right. But could I knock on their door and say, have you completed your ballot? Because I'm here to pick it. I'm here from the party, and I'm wearing my suit, and I have your name on the list, and I say, listen, Mrs. Jones, I know that you requested an absentee ballot. I'm from the party. I got your party affiliation. I know your address. I can tell you what party your affiliation is. I sound very official. I have a nice suit on, and I say, if you're done with that, I would be very happy to take it back to the, I see you're a 70-year-old, 75-year-old person, and I know taking this back would be difficult, so I would be glad to take this for you and drop it off. I could do that, right?
You could do that, and if it wasn't delivered, you could be prosecuted. But more to the point, Senator, I just got a DM. This amendment actually restricts the agent aspect of this law, not the completed ballot. The way this is worded, it will not limit someone collecting completed ballots. I mean, I don't want to get into wordsmithing, but according to SBE, State Board of Elections, this will put a restriction on those that have a formal agent document and would limit them to collecting 10 of those, not the completed ballots, which is what is the center of the conversation.
Okay. Right. All right. Okay. So you're saying there's a flaw in the amendment. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, it seems like this is a problem that or an issue we still ought to address, because if I can go around, I mean, if I could go around to the Democrats in a precinct and say, hey, I'm here from the party. Look, I'm dressed up nicely. I know you got a ballot. That's like, well, I didn't know you could. I mean, you must be from the party because you know I have a ballot. Because most people don't know that I can get a list of all the people who got absentee ballots, and I can go around and start collecting up all these absentee ballots of people of one party, and then they just disappear. And the only chances of me getting caught is somebody who is identified. Suddenly they come up and say, why do you have 50 ballots in your pocket? What are you doing? This is against the law. So I'm just very concerned about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. Are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
Mr. President, I know the body has been hearing this for a while. I actually have a substitute amendment. I could withdraw this amendment. The amendment I had drawn up, the next amendment I have drawn up clarifies the agent issue. I have emailed it to the floor leader's laptop. Understandably, he has not probably looked at it because, we've been busy. So, if you'd like, I could withdraw the amendment and offer this one, and we don't need to have, necessarily us re-explain it all. It's the same issue, but it clarifies the agent issue.
All right,
So-
Senator has requested to withdraw the amendment. Senator has a replacement amendment. Senator, if the Senator could please read the amendment number.
Okay, amendment number 803728/1. (803728/1).
Senator may explain the amendment.
Okay, wonderful. So it's the same issue. We would like to limit to 10 somebody going around and collecting ballots that are sealed, no more than 10. But this amendment says, except as provided in subsection B of this section, which I'll get to in a moment, a person may not pick up and deliver more than 10 absentee ballots during an election. The subsection B is a person may pick up and deliver additional absentee ballots if the person is a duly authorized agent under this subtitle, under 9-307 of this subtitle, for each additional voter whose absentee ballot is being picked up and delivered. So it would clarify, I think, more and allude to the fact that there's an agent process, which is fine. We want the agent process. Also, to speak to the idea that somebody takes 12 ballots and drops them off because they're at a nursing home or something like that, it's really not, that's not going to be enforced. It's more that if someone is going around and trying to do this in the arms race mentality that we have seen in California, and it's on both sides, this is sort of putting a limit to that and just making absolutely sure that we're clear we don't want that happening in the state. So I would move this amendment, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, Senator. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Senator, I understand your concern, but I still don't think this amendment does what you want. It does not say completed ballots, completed and sealed ballots. It says pick up and deliver absentee ballots. And in fact, that's some of the same language under the agency or the agent part of the code. So, I understand your concern, but this doesn't do it, in my opinion and with council's opinion.
Mr. President.
Yes, Chair recognizes the maker of the amendment.
I'll just press the amendment. It's clear we're sort of at an impasse, and I understand the point, but I think it would be good to make this very clear in law, and without a shadow of a doubt, that we don't want people collecting multiple ballots, or having some sort of processes that my friend from Harford County mentioned, where the party goes out and says, hey, we have you on a list of absentee ballots. Any party or any group. So I would press the amendment.
All right, on the amendment, everyone.
Like a roll call.
Are there any senators request a roll call? Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to offer, I very much respect where the chairman's coming from, but clearly in this amendment, Section A says, except as provided in subsection B of this section, a person may not pick up and deliver more than 10 absentee ballots. There's two types of absentee ballots. There's the absentee ballots that are already in the voter's possession, and they voted them, and they've sealed them in an envelope, and they're ready to go back. Or there's absentee ballots that are with the Register of Wills, and you're going to pick them up and take them. Those are the two categories. And what this says is you can't pick up more than 10 of any of them, except then you get to B, a person may pick up and deliver additional absentee ballots if the person is duly authorized agent under Section 9307 of this subtitle for each additional voter whose absentee ballot is being collected. So to me, this very clearly covers both, but accepts out in the second category the absentee ballots for which you have this certification. So I think it's a valid amendment. It does what the maker intends it to do, and I urge the body to vote green. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the amendment, if there's no further discussion, Senators request a roll call vote. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Would anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 31 votes in the negative, the Senator's amendment fails. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 683 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, let's go into these second readers. We got a lot. Let's start with JPR. This is starting with calendar 14. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 144, Senator Gazzoni, Electric Vehicle Recharging Equipment for Multifamily Units Act, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 29th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 144 deals with electric vehicle recharging equipment for multifamily units. This bill establishes standards relating to the installation and use of electric vehicle recharging equipment in condominium and homeowner associations. There were 2 amendments. First was technical. The second strikes the creation of a certain grant program and requires the governing body of the condominium or HOA to approve the installation of electric vehicle recharging equipment under certain circumstances if the installation is reasonably possible. Committee vote was unanimous. Move for the adoption of the favorable report and the 2 amendments.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 144 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 364, Senator McCray, Baltimore City Civil Claims Against Law Enforcement Officers of an Institution of Higher Education, Prohibition Against Non-Disclosure Provision in Settlement Agreement.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, as amended, prohibits the inclusion of and declares unenforceable a non-disparagement clause in a settlement agreement or any general release of liability between the parties to a claim or a suit asserting misconduct in the performance of duties by a law enforcement officer of a law enforcement agency of an institution of higher education. The bill only applies to a claim or suit arising in Baltimore City. The bill applies prospectively and may not be applied to or interpreted to have any effect on or application to any agreement or release of liability executed before the bill's October 1, 2021 effective date. There are 2 committee amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes the reference to confidentiality or other non-disclosure provisions and replaces the term with non-disparagement clause. The purpose is to reflect the language in the Baltimore City Code. I would move the favorable report and committee amendments. Thank you.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the 2 amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 364 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 592, Senator Zucker, State Child Welfare System, reporting favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senate Bill 592 is about transparency in the state welfare system, and I thank the sponsor of the bill for his continued work in this area. Essentially, the bill alters the information that DHS must report to the General Assembly and publish on the website regarding children and foster youth in the state child welfare system. MSDE must report specified information regarding children and child and foster care youth to the General Assembly and DHS by December 1st of each year. There was one amendment. It was technical. I'd move adoption of the favorable committee report and the amendment.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question is on the amendment. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 592 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 686, Senator Smith, real property, condominiums, homeowners associations, and cooperative housing corporations, virtual meetings, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in the midst of the pandemic, condominiums, HOAs, corporate housing associations have been forced to meet online through Zoom and other platforms like that. So what this bill does is it aligns this practice with a lot of the governing documents to ensure that this continued practice is possible. They've experienced greater participation, greater transparency. It's been a net benefit. So it basically authorizes those organizations to attend those meetings by telephone conference, video conference, or similar electronic means. There's one amendment. It authorizes the condominium, HOA, or corporate housing association to authorize virtual meetings, notwithstanding language contained in their governing documents. That's one amendment. So I'd move adoption of the favorable committee report and the single amendment.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 686 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 832, Charles County Senators, Southern Maryland Multifamily Dwelling Registration Fees and Fines, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from the 27th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Bill 832, the bill allows the county commissioners of a code home rule county of Southern Maryland class, in this case Charles County, to one, require a property owner of a multifamily dwelling to register the dwelling with the county in order to offer units in the dwelling for lease. 2, charge a fee on a property owner for registering a multifamily dwelling with the county. And 3, impose a fine on the property owner that leases a unit in a multifamily dwelling that's not registered with the county. The bill also authorizes the county to adopt regulations relating to the registration of the multifamily dwellings. There are no amendments. Move for the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Question on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 832 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Let's go to JPR 15. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 471, Senator Washington, Task Force to Study Crime Classification and Penalties, alterations, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Frederick County as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This bill just simply extends the task force to study crime classification and penalties by 1 year. So the task force, obviously because of COVID, we were a little delayed, so it just gives another year to get our report back in. And there are no amendments. I'd move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Question on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 471 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 505, Senator Heddleman, Criminal Law, First Degree Child Abuse, Continuing Course of Conduct, favorable.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 505 establishes that it's a violation of the state's prohibition on first-degree child abuse to engage in a continuing course of conduct that includes 3 or more acts of second-degree child abuse. Violators are subject to the existing penalties for first-degree child abuse. There are no committee amendments. I move for the favorable adoption of the bill.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, on the report, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 505 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 726, Senator Feldman, Vehicle Laws, Personal Delivery Devices, Standards and Requirements, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under Senate Bill 726, a personal delivery device is a robotic vehicle which, if the bill is passed, will deliver cargo in our neighborhoods. Sounds a little like the Jetsons. As amended, this bill authorizes a personal delivery device to operate without registration on any highway, sidewalk, or crosswalk in the state. The bill excludes such devices from the definition of motor vehicle and establishes various other standards and requirements that must be adhered to by devices operating pursuant to the bill's authorization. The amended bill provides that the robotic vehicles cannot travel over 7 miles an hour, will operate primarily on shoulders and sidewalks, cannot operate on streets where the speed limit is over 35 miles an hour, and must obey all traffic devices. The amended bill additionally provides that on or before October 1st, 2021, the Motor Vehicle Administration will develop a process for permitting the use of such devices, which would be in effect when the bill's authorization becomes effective on July 1, 2022. There are 2 committee amendments. The first is technical. The second makes various changes to the statutory provisions authorizing the operation of personal delivery devices. The amendment also requires the Motor Vehicle Administration to report to the General Assembly by December 1st of this year on the status of the permit process. The bill passed the committee 11-1. I move the favorable committee, both amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. We are clearly living in the future. Pretty fascinating. On the 2 committee amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, yes. Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs.
Too many things on my desk. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes,
quick question for the floor leader.
Surely.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. You said that these devices can travel what speed, maximum speed?
7 miles an hour.
That's what I thought you said. 7 miles an hour, but it is permitted that they travel on highways.
Yes, but only highways where the speed is not over 35 miles an hour. I wouldn't call those highways, on roads.
Okay, I understand the difference between roads and highways, but on the bill, on line 20, page 3, it says highway. A personal delivery device that is operated on a highway, sidewalk, or crosswalk in accordance with blah, blah, blah. Highway is highway.
You know, it may have been in the original bill, but in the amendment, we restricted that to roads where the speeds are under 35 miles an hour.
I am looking at the reprint, I believe.
Yes.
You just want to check that.
I'd have to find it on the reprint, but it's there.
On page 3 of 7, do you want to, Mr. President, do we want to just special order this for, again, like 15 minutes so that the floor leader can check on that?
Let's see if we
What's the pleasure?
I can find it within 15 minutes.
If there are no objections, we can, how about we do this? We will special order it until after calendar 16. That's the next calendar.
Sure. That's
Thank
fine.
you.
All right, without objection, or if there are any objections on the special order, without objection, so ordered. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 862, Senator Wallstreicher, arrest warrants issued by District Court Commissioners, recalled by Judge, favorable.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the Committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill simply clarifies that a district court judge or circuit court judge can recall an arrest warrant issued by a district court commissioner and issue instead a summons in its place. There are no committee amendments. Mr. President, I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Question on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 862 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 874, Senator Jackson, work group to study partial expungement, favorable with 2 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, as amended, this emergency bill alters the partial expungement work group The work group, which is staffed by the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth, and Victim Services, is required to study and develop a plan and legislative recommendations for enabling the expungement of criminal charges that are currently not eligible for expungement because of the requirements under the unit rule. Work group members may not receive compensation but are entitled for reimbursement expenses under the standard state travel regulations. The work group must report its plan and legislative recommendation to the General Assembly on January 5th, 2022. The work group remains in effect until June 30th, 2022. There are two committee amendments. First is technical. The second alters the name, composition, procedures, and deadlines associated with the work group. Move for the adoption of the amendments, favorable committee amendments, as well as the adoption of the committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question first is on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 874 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, let's go to report number 16. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 327, Senator Wallstreicher, Civil Actions, Financial Exploitation of Vulnerable Adults, Maryland SAFE Act, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, as amended, establishes a civil cause of action that a financially exploited, susceptible or older adult may bring against a financial exploiter. The cause of action authorized under the bill survives the death of the susceptible or older adult and is in addition to and cumulative with any other criminal or administrative claims, legal or equitable causes of action, and other remedies available to the susceptible or older adult. The bill includes additional provisions specifying individuals who may bring a cause of action on the susceptible or older adult's behalf, damages and relief that may be awarded, and a statute of limitations for this cause of action. The bill applies only prospectively. There are two committee amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 replaces a defined term and authorizes the Division of Consumer Protection in the Office of the Attorney General and the Securities Commissioner of the Division of Securities to bring a civil action on behalf of susceptible adults or older adults. Mr. President, I move the amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question is on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 327 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 335, Senator Signer, Courts, Non-Governmental Corporate Parties, Disclosure Statement, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 335 requires a non-governmental corporate party to file in court as specified a disclosure statement that identifies any parent corporation and any public held corporation owning 10% or more of its stock, identifies any member or owner in a joint venture or limited liability corporation, identifies all partners in a partnership or limited liability partnership, identifies any corporate member if the party is in any other unincorporated association, or states that there is no such corporation. There are two committee amendments. The first amendment is technical. The second amendment strikes the requirement that we had for two disclosure statements. Strikes the requirement that the bill should be interpreted in a manner that is consistent with the federal rules of civil procedure. And second, it makes a technical correction requiring a non-governmental corporate party to file one copy instead of two copies. There's no fiscal impact. Mr. President, I move adoption of the amendments in the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the two committee amendments in the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 335 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 474, Senator Eckert, real property, sale of mobile home parks, notice requirements, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill requires a mobile home park owner to provide notice of the sale of the park to each resident of the park no less than 30 days before the date of the sale, rather than within 5 days after entering into the contract for the sale, as the law currently provides. The vote of the committee was unanimous. There are no amendments. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 474 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 488, Senator Bidle, family law, marriage, licenses, and records, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City and County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill alters specified designations that must be included on the marriage licenses and certificates and specifies that the information required to be kept by the circuit court clerk related to marriage licenses may be an electronic record. There were no committee amendments. The vote was unanimous. Mr. President, I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 488 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 698, Senator Eckert, real property transfer on death deed task force, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill establishes the Real Property Transfer on Death Deed Task Force. The task force must study other jurisdictions that have implemented the use of a transfer on death deed for real property and consult with relevant experts to evaluate the potential benefits and negative implications of such an instrument as a means of property transfer in the state, and make recommendations regarding the implementation of a transfer on death deed in the state. The Attorney General or designee serves as the chair of the task force, and the Office of the Attorney General must provide staff. The task force members may not receive compensation, and by December 1, 2022, the task force must report its findings and recommendations to the Governor and General Assembly. The bill takes effect July 1, 2021, and terminates June 30, 2023. There is one committee amendment which adds 2 additional members to the task force: the Commissioner of Financial Regulation or the Commissioner's designee, and 1 representative of the credit union industry. I would move the amendments and the favorable committee report. Thank you.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question is on the one amendment. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 698 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, we are back to the prior bill that we put after calendar 16. Let's just make sure do we have this one up? If the clerk could read the bill.
Senate Bill 726, Senator Feldman, vehicle laws, personal delivery devices, standards and requirements, favorable with 2 amendments.
All right, question before the body is on the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Montgomery County and I located the language in the bill. It states that one of these mobile personal delivery devices may not travel on any roadway where there are sidewalks or a shoulder adjacent to the roadway, or the posted maximum speed limit is more than 35 miles an hour. The senator from Montgomery County would like to prepare an amendment to change the word highway in the single place that it appears in the bill to roadway. That will be a friendly amendment, but in order to accommodate her, I'd like to request that this bill lay over under the rule.
Senator, the layover motion would not be in order, but we can special order it. I mean, this is a tiny amendment. Can we think about how quickly can we get it?
Could we have a special order until the first?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we special order it until the end of the calendar today, and if it's ready, we can move it. If not, we'll take it up tomorrow.
That would be fine. Thank you.
All right. Without objection, if there are no objections, we'll special order the bill to the appropriate time at the end of the calendar today. All right, let's move now to JPR calendar number 17. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 202, Senator Kelly, Correctional Services, Parole, Life Imprisonment, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes, let's see, where are we? Senate Bill 202.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, yes, Chair recognizes Senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Mr. President, I'd like to lay this bill over until the appropriate time tomorrow.
The Senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will be laid over under the rule. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 401, Senator Carter, Landlord-Tenant Non-Renewal of Lease Notice Requirements, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsored bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill alters the statutory provisions that specify the amount of time prior to the expiration of a tenancy. The landlord is required to provide written notice to a tenant of the intent to repossess the property. The bill has statewide application and applies to 1, any residential lease that is executed on or after the bill's October 1, 2021 effective date, and 2, residential leases that were executed prior to October 1, 2021 that have expired and resulted in a holdover tenancy on or after the bill's effective date. There are 3 committee amendments, I believe. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 converts references from months and weeks into days, requires if the parties have a written lease for a stated term in excess of 1 week or a tenancy from month to month, a landlord to provide written notice of the intent to terminate a tenancy 60 days before the expiration of the tenant. And the bill before amendment required notice 3 months before the expiration of the tenancy if the tenant had resided continuously in the same premises for more than 2 years. Amendment number 3 specifies that section 1 of the bill applies to any residential lease in the state that has expired and has resulted in a tenancy created under section 8-402D of the real property article as enacted by section 1 of the bill. I would move the adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 3 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Chair recognizes Senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield for a question?
Will the floor leader yield? It appears so.
Yes.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you. So as I look at this bill, what jumps out at me first is you're doubling the notice from 30 to 60 days for a tenant that is in a property for less than 2 years, correct? I have that right?
That's correct.
Have we doubled the amount of time that the tenant has to give notice to the landlord that they're vacating the property?
That's not in the bill. The reason is that standard leases are generally generated by landlords, and the impetus for the bill was created because the pandemic highlighted the fact that landlords were able to get around the moratorium on evictions by using this failure to renew. So the point of the bill, just to explain, is to expand the amount of time that a tenant would have to uproot themselves to move out of a property. So briefly, the bill specifies it just moves from 30 days to 60 days for both tenancies that are less than 2 years and tenancies that are more than 2 years. But it doesn't specify what the tenant has to do because that's generally something the landlord specifies in a lease anyway.
Well, but I can't specify. I don't believe I can specify in a lease that a tenant has to give me 60 days notice, do I?
No, you can. And,
you can,
and
'cause
many,
it's a contract.
in fact, many standard leases actually specify that the tenant has to give 90 days notice, believe it or not.
Well, generally speaking, landlords and tenants in a lot of operations, they don't want to have a relationship where they're going to surprise either one of the other because they want to maintain a good relationship. It doesn't always work that way. So this was brought out because of because of the COVID, the pandemic with COVID. So there was concerns about the getting around evictions. You said that, correct?
Well, I would say that it's been probably an issue, but it was highlighted by COVID because there was a belief that evictions would be stopped because of a moratorium, But then what was happening was that landlords were working around the moratorium on evictions by simply failing to renew leases instead of evicting.
So this will expire when the state of emergency ends, because we're basically, the COVID pandemic is not going to continue, hopefully, much longer. So we're good. This bill is it a permanent bill, though?
It does not expire at the end of the pandemic, because as I was trying to stress, it wasn't as if there was never a problem and it only was created by the pandemic, but it was highlighted. The problem was highlighted by the pandemic because of the moratorium on evictions and the fact that this was kind of a loophole or a workaround. And I just want to stress to you that this isn't like an exotic concept. It's something that's done in some other states, but also 60 days notice is already required in 2 jurisdictions in the state. This simply puts the entire state, every jurisdiction, in uniformity with those 2 jurisdictions.
I was looking at the fiscal note and I was trying to understand, is there any other, is it in the bill that there's a longer notice time as the property goes on? There's a 3-month notice? And one.
Well, no. So as the initial bill came in and as the House passed the bill, for a tenancy that exceeded 2 years, there was 90 days. But our committee reduced that and made it just a standard 60 days.
Yeah, you went. Okay, that's okay. Good. That's helpful. So you speak about when you speak about it being a loophole where people get around, but isn't it a contract? So if the contract expires, how is that a loophole?
It was a loophole because the expectation was that there wouldn't be evictions and people thrown out into the street because there was a moratorium. But what happened is that even in cases where tenants may have been paying and paying their rent, that this non-renewal tactic was used. And I'll give you an example. So I had a constituent, and this is not necessarily the impetus for the bill, but it's one of the scenarios why I knew the bill was important. I had a constituent who was, as so many of our constituents are, suffered with the loss of employment and was waiting for unemployment, was late on 1 month's rent, but because of the moratorium, landlord couldn't file for the eviction because of the 1 month. And so what the landlord did, even after the tenant had caught up that next month, was simply, the way that the tenant explained it to me, the constituent, uploaded into the tenant portal a 60-day failure to renew, because in Baltimore City it's already 60 days, but uploaded it just a little bit more, like about 35 days out, which means that there wasn't like a full 60 days. So he was forced to, on short notice, try to find a new place to live. And so I'm saying that because the point is, what we want is people to be able to have adequate notice so they can uproot themselves, especially these people that have lived in a place at least 2 years or more and aren't, transient people used to moving around. The whole purpose of this is to give people a little bit more time.
I don't want to get into debating the bill, and I understand the sentiment behind wanting to give people more time, but landlords generally, if someone is there paying the rent, they're not real quick to want to get rid of people who are following the things of the lease. They're paying the rent on time. Frankly, it's very expensive and time consuming to evict somebody. So even if your tenant gets a little behind, generally a landlord wants to work with the tenant. No, not always, and there are some people that aren't good. But the point is, this is their property. It's not. We're interjecting ourselves in this bill into this relationship further than we already have. But that may be debating the bill, Mr. President, so perhaps I should just stop here, because I'd like to take a little bit more of a look at this bill and ask it to lay over under the rule.
Senator, you just anticipated where I was going. Senator's motion would be in order. The bill and the amendment will be laid over under the rule.
Thank you.
Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 690, Senator Signor, Public Information Act, Inspection of Records from Body-worn Digital Recording Devices, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, this bill sets forth the circumstances under which a custodian of record, in accordance with the Maryland's Public Information Act, must deny or allow inspection of records from a body-worn digital recording device worn by law enforcement officers. The bill's provisions, 1, do not apply to the public record that has been entered into evidence in a court proceeding, and 2, may not be construed to affect the discovery or evidentiary rights of a party to a civil suit or criminal prosecution. There are two amendments. The First Amendment is technical. The Second Amendment alters a provision relating to the required denials of inspection or copying of records by certain individuals under investigation for or charged with certain offenses. The committee vote was unanimous. Mr. President, I move adoption of the amended bill, the amendments in a favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 690 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. All right, we've got one more judicial proceedings report. We're flying through them. Just jinxed us. This is number 18. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 20, Senator Carter, vehicle laws, canceled, revoked, and suspended driver's licenses, penalties, favorable with 4 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, this bill eliminates imprisonment as a possible penalty for a person convicted of displaying or causing to be displayed a canceled, revoked, or suspended license. The bill also reduces the points assessed from 12 points to 3 points for these violations. There are 4 committee amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 eliminates the provision in the bill that created an exception to the elimination of imprisonment for violations for displaying a license canceled, revoked, or suspended for certain alcohol or drug-related offenses. Amendment number 3 eliminates a provision in the bill that created an exception to the reduction of points assessed for displaying a license canceled, revoked, or suspended for certain alcohol or drug-related offenses. Amendment number 4 eliminates an additional provision of the bill that created an exception to the reduction of points assessed for displaying a license canceled, revoked, or suspended for certain alcohol or drug-related offenses. I would move the favorable committee report and the 4 amendments. Thank you.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 20 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 497, Senator Kelly, Juvenile Services, Education Board and Program, Establishment, Powers and Duties, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Right now, MSDE operates the education within DJS, and some complications have arisen over the last few years. So what this bill does is it repeals the mandatory provisions regarding juvenile services education program within MSDE, and instead establishes a board within the Department of Juvenile Services to oversee, provide educational services to juveniles who are residing in a facility. There are 2 amendments. One is technical, and amendment number 2 strikes provisions of the bill that provides employees who are transferred to the Department of Juvenile Services as a result of this act shall be transferred without diminution of their rights and benefits or retirement status. This happens because once you're switching employees from MSDE and moving that responsibility to DJS, you don't want to mess with their pension and their retirement. So with that, Mr. President, I'd ask for the favorable adoption of the favorable committee report and the 2 amendments.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 497 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 623, Senator Lee, Criminal Law, Crimes Involving Computers, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill prohibits a person from knowingly possessing ransomware with the intent to use it for specified purposes and establishes criminal penalties for the violation. The bill further prohibits committing a ransomware offense or other prohibited acts as currently specified with the intent to interrupt or impair the functioning of a healthcare facility or public school. Finally, the bill alters existing monetary penalties for specified computer-related offenses. The bill applies prospectively to any cause of action arising on or after the bill's October 1st, 2021 effective date. There are two committee amendments. Committee amendment number 1 alters the penalties under the bill. Amendment number 2 alters exception under the bill. Move favorable the committee report with amendments.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question first is on the amendments. Chair recognizes the senator from the 36th district.
Mr. President, may the bill and the amendments lie over under the rule.
The senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will be laid over under the rule. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 735, Senator West, State Government Notary Acts, Remote Notarizations.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, as amended, authorizes remote notarial acts with respect to wills and trust instruments and clarifies the application of specified requirements for credential analysis and identity proofing as they pertain to remote notarial acts. The bill establishes procedures for certain remote notarial acts. Additionally, the bill specifies that the notarization of any document in conformance with the governor's executive orders during the current pandemic authorizing remote notarization must be deemed valid if the notarization occurred during the time that the orders were in effect. There was no opposition to the bill. The vote was unanimous. There are 2 amendments. The first is technical. The second establishes certain procedures for remote notarial acts involving a tangible record and authorizes the Secretary of State to adopt regulations to prescribe the methods for reasonable confirmation of a tangible record by a notary public. I move the adoption of the 2 amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report as amended say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 735 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. All right, let's do the budget and tax. We've got just a few bills. This is calendar 14. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 477, Senator McCray, Enoch Pratt Free Library, opening hours and funding, favorable.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 477 requires the governor to continue to provide $3 million in the state budget beginning in fiscal year 2023 to support additional operating expenses for branches of the Enoch Pratt Free Library that increase their operating hours above the hours in effect as of January 1st, 2016. In order to receive the grant funding, Baltimore City must, with public and or private funds, provide a 25% funding match. The bill also expresses the intent of the General Assembly that increased operating hours be utilized to advance the library's commitment to equity, inclusion, and greater access to library resources, programs, and services. There are no amendments. Move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Question on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 477 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 163, Senator Ellis, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, favorable with 2 amendments.
One moment. I think we are one.
No, I'm on the wrong bill.
All good. Long day for everyone. Chair especially right here.
Okay, I'm going to try this again. Okay, Senate Bill 538, Senator Gazzoni, Community College Tuition and Residency Waivers Funding.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, this increases the statutory funding formulas for the community colleges, Baltimore City Community College and the Sellinger program. So, of course, we had a robust debate earlier. During that debate, there was a lot of discussion about costs for the community college system. Now, I agree with the floor leader during that debate that cost is not really the issue on that bill, as was suggested. However, the commitment of the Budget and Tax Committee, and I believe the whole Assembly, to the community colleges, to the Sellinger program, I think is significant. First off, I know that everyone heard from the gentleman on the Eastern Shore that the governor actually added back money into the budget from the cut that he made earlier for these programs. And that was in the supplemental budget. The interesting thing is that the House had already done that in their budget presentations, and we were prepared to do the same. So the good news is that sort of this level of commitment is there. And this bill, I believe, is in addition to that level of commitment. Originally, this bill was about granting the community colleges some relief, if you will, from mandates that we've established over the years to give free tuition to various individuals. And it was a good bill, I believe, but at the end, the committee decided to actually deal with the formulas that are inherent in the CADE formula and Sellinger. So basically, I could run through the numbers if you feel it's necessary, but it increases all these formulas, not dramatically, but it continues to push things in the right direction from the view of the committee. So there are two amendments. One is technical. The second strikes the provisions in the bill introduced and instead alters the formulas. Move adoption of the committee amendments and the floor report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments? Discussion on the amendments? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, on the report, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 538 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 551, Senator Rosapep, School Construction Incentive Act of 2021, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The bill as amended creates a work group of stakeholders to work together to explore state incentives that could make our school construction program more effective in terms of maintenance as well as expansion. Basically, the amendments strike the original bill, create the work group on the recommendations from MACO and the IAC. The vote in the committee was unanimous. There are two amendments. First is technical and second strikes the bill and puts in the work group. Move the amendments and the favorable report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 551 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Members, just a quick note on work groups, just as we're getting through here. This has been a very long year for everyone, and so as we think about work groups and task forces and interim appointments, it is hoping that everyone can take a bit of pause to recharge at some point here. But then as we are thinking about work groups for this upcoming session, please make sure to be mindful. If it's something you care a lot about, please be prepared to serve because it's going to be a long year ahead. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to Finance. Let's see, report number 18. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 97, Senator Rosapep, Purple Line Marketing Act, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 97 requires the Maryland Transit Administration to develop and implement a Purple Line marketing plan. Among other requirements, the marketing plan must identify interconnections with other local and interstate transit systems as well as pedestrian and bicycle access to Purple Line stations. Amendment 1 makes a change to the purpose paragraph. Amendment 2 alters a funding provision in the bill so that the governor must include for the fiscal year preceding the calendar year in which the purple line is scheduled to open an appropriation of $500,000 from the Transportation Trust Fund for the marketing plan. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, Chair recognizes Minority Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just ask the bill and the amendments lie over under the rule.
Senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendments will lie over under the rule. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 163, Senator Ellis, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, doulas, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
As amended, Senate Bill 163 establishes a 3-year doula pilot program within Medicaid, administered by the Department of Health. The purpose of the program is to provide doula services to Medicaid recipients in Baltimore City, Charles County, and Prince George's County who are pregnant or postpartum. Maryland Department of Health must evaluate the effectiveness of the pilot program and submit specified reports to the governor and the General Assembly. As amended, the bill implements a recommendation found in the health disparities section of the report of the Senate President's Advisory Work Group on Equity and Inclusion. Amendment 1 is technical. Amendment 2 strikes the bill as introduced and substitutes the pilot program described. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question first on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 163 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 192, Senator West, Cemeteries, Perpetual Care Distribution from Perpetual Care Trust Fund, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 192 specifies that distributions from a perpetual care trust fund must be used only for perpetual care of the cemetery, which includes maintenance of the grounds and buildings. The bill also offers cemeteries an alternative to the net income method for the investing the principal of perpetual care trust funds. Instead, cemeteries may elect, under specified conditions, to adopt a total rate of return, which results in a specified percentage dedicated to perpetual care. The director of the Office of Cemetery Oversight may limit or prohibit a fund balance distribution from a total rate of return method if the method is determined under specified conditions to not meet the needs of perpetual care. By December 1st, 2027, the office must report on the number of cemeteries that have selected an alternative distribution method under the bill, the annual investment performance of the related trust funds, and any recommendations for legislation. The amendment requires a trustee to adopt an investment policy that includes a reasonable amount of fixed income securities. There is no fiscal impact, and I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question first on the amendment. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 1 committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 192 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 550, Senator Bidle, Sheila E. Hickson, Behavioral Health Services, Matching Grant Program for Service Members and Veterans Establishment, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. 18% of suicides in Maryland are veterans. Veterans are twice as likely to commit suicide, and 62% are not under the care of the VA. Senate Bill 550 establishes the Sheila Hickson Behavioral Health Services Matching Grant Program for service members and veterans administered by the Department of Health. The program is intended to help serve the behavioral health needs of service members, veterans, and specified family members. The program must award competitive matching grants to local nonprofit organizations to establish and expand community behavioral health programs that, number one, serve the behavioral health needs of eligible individuals, 2, meet the national standards, 3, integrate the delivery of mental health and substance use treatment, and 4, connect eligible individuals to appropriate community-based care in a timely manner when discharged from the community behavioral health program. The amendment adds sponsors. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 550 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 741, Senator Rosapep, COVID-19 Testing, Contract Tracing, and Vaccination Act of 2021, favorable with 9 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as amended, Senate Bill 741 is an emergency bill, requires the Maryland Department of Health, in collaboration with local health departments, to adopt and implement a 2-year plan to respond to COVID-19. The plan must include specified elements and establish a Maryland Public Health Jobs Corps. The department must also develop and submit a plan for vaccinating residents against COVID-19 and convene a Maryland Public Health Infrastructure Modernization Work Group. The bill requires the department to provide funding to local jurisdictions, assisted living facilities, home health agencies, and nursing homes to cover testing and other costs. Assisted living facilities, home health agencies, nursing homes, and certain institutions of higher education must adopt and implement plans relating to COVID-19, infection control, and prevention. The bill also mandates health insurance coverage of COVID-19 testing under certain circumstances, with no copayment, coinsurance, or deductible. Amendments 1 and 2 add sponsors, make changes to the purpose paragraph, alter definitions, and change the deadline for the response plan to June 1st. Amendments 3 through 5 alter requirements for the COVID response and vaccination plans and make changes to the membership and scope of duties of the Maryland Public Health Infrastructure Modernization Work Group. Amendment 6 alters requirements for institutions of higher education by requiring an institution of higher education that has residence halls for students to establish a COVID-19 security plan that includes both screening and testing procedures that will keep students, faculty, and staff safe while on campus from face-to-face instruction. Amendment 7 alters requirements on home health agencies by requiring adoption of a COVID-19 infection control and prevention plan that requires regular screening of patients and staff and testing if required under applicable federal orders or guidance. Amendment 8 alters insurance provisions in the bill requiring coverage for COVID-19 tests and related items and services as required by the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act and CARES Act and any applicable federal regulations or guidance. Amendment 9 clarifies that only federal funds may be used for the appropriations required under the bill. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 9 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just ask the bill and amendment lie over under the rule.
The senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendments will lay over under the rule. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 907, Senator Benson, Human Services Critical Medical Needs Program, application for assistance, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 907, as amended, requires the Office of Home Energy Programs to allow a critical medically vulnerable individual who is at least 60 years old and assisted by a navigator when applying for assistance from the Critical Medical Needs Program to provide certification from a medical provider of the severe health condition 90 days after applying for assistance. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters the bill as just described. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Questions on the 2 committee amendments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 907 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill. Is that the end of that calendar, actually? Mm-hmm. Let's go to the next finance report. That was 18. Let's go to 19. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 651, Senator Klossmeyer, Baltimore County Workers' Compensation, Permanent Partial Disability Detention and Correctional Officers, favorable.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 651 alters the definition of public safety employee as it applies to workers' compensation benefits to include Baltimore County correctional officers and detention officers. As a result, Baltimore County correctional officers and detention officers become eligible for enhanced workers' compensation benefits for claims arising on or after the bill's effective date. There are no amendments and there was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Question is on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 651 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 714, Senator Kagan, Public Safety 911 Emergency Telephone System alterations, favorable with 4 amendments.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Senate Bill 714 makes various changes to the regulatory structure governing the state's 911 system related to 911 service outages, Maryland 911 board composition and responsibilities, authorizes use of the 911 trust fund and multi-line telephone systems as amended. The bill also requires the University System of Maryland, in consultation with the Workers' Compensation Commission and the Maryland 911 Board, to study the state's workers' compensation laws and the effects of job-related audible or visual trauma experienced by 911 specialists. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters provisions related to the reporting and analysis of 911 service outages and alters the entity required to conduct the study under the bill. Amendment number 3 expands the responsibilities of the board, and amendment number 4 requires the 911 Commission to report certain demographic and employment information related to 911 specialists to the General Assembly, as well as a plan to provide implicit bias training to 911 specialists. The bill passed unanimously out of the Finance Committee. Mr. President, I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 714 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 748, Senator Vital, Public Health State Designated Exchange, Clinical Information, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 748 requires a nursing home, on request of the Maryland Department of Health, to electronically submit clinical information to the State Designated Health Information Exchange. The exchange may provide this information to healthcare providers, federal and state officials, and other specified entities. If approved by the Maryland Health Care Commission, the information may be combined with other data maintained by the exchange to facilitate a state health improvement program, mitigation of a public health emergency, and improvement of patient safety. The bill also requires an electronic health network to provide electronic healthcare transactions to the Health Information Exchange for certain public health and clinical purposes. Amendment 1 makes changes to the purpose paragraph. Amendment 2 adopts and alters definitions to clarify the scope of the bill and specifies that information submitted by a nursing home under the bill may be used only to facilitate the purposes stated in the bill and may not be used for any other purpose, including licensing and certification. The amendment also clarifies the scope of the public health and clinical purpose for which the electronic healthcare transaction must be provided to the Health Information Exchange, prohibits an electronic health network from charging healthcare providers, healthcare payers to provide the data required, and requires instead of permits the Maryland Healthcare Commission to adopt regulations that limit redisclosure and restrict the exchange of certain data. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question is on the 2 committee amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 748 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 815, Senator Klossmeyer, Mental Health Facilities, Sexual Abuse and Harassment, Reporting and Prevention, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. As amended, Senate Bill 815 requires a licensed residential treatment center, a state facility, or a hospital with a separately identified inpatient psychiatric service to report a complaint of sexual abuse or sexual harassment of a patient within 24 hours after receiving the complaint. A complaint must be reported to the Behavioral Health Administration and the Office of Health Care Quality within the Maryland Department of Health, the Child Protective Services Unit in the Department of Human Services if the complaint involves a minor, and the State Designated Protection and Advocacy System. The bill also requires these facilities to implement actions related to the prevention of sexual abuse and sexual harassment, such as adoption of written protection plan as part of the patient's treatment plan. Amendment number 1 makes changes to the purpose paragraph. Amendment number 2 clarifies the facilities to which the bill applies, require that a complaint be reported within 24 hours of receipt, and requires the Behavioral Health Administration and Office of Health Care Quality to collaborate to develop and implement a uniform reporting system for the use by facilities when reporting complaints. There was no opposition at the committee hearing, and I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 815 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 830, Senator Lamb, Secretary of Health, School-Based Health Centers, Guidelines and Administration of Grants, favorable.
Chair recognizes Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 830 transfers administration of school-based health center grants from the Maryland State Department of Education to the Maryland Department of Health's Bureau of Maternal and Child Health. The Maryland Department of Health, in conjunction with the MSDE, must develop guidelines to expand the number of school-based health centers in the state. In 2017, Maryland Council on Advancement of School-Based Health Centers was moved from the Maryland State Department of Education to the Maryland Department of Health. This bill furthers the alignment of school-based health centers with their purpose of providing primary health care to underserved children in our public schools. There are no amendments, no fiscal impact. Mr. President, I would move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Discussion on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments for the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 830 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 923, Senator Washington, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, eligibility and disenrollment, favorable with 2 amendments.
Senate Bill 923, Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee. Yes, Chair of the committee is the floor leader.
Senate Bill 923 requires Medicaid to extend coverage for eligible pregnant women and family incomes up to 250% of the federal poverty level for 1 year immediately following the end of the woman's pregnancy. Current law only provides coverage to women for 60 days postpartum. Amendment 1 makes changes to the title of the bill. Amendment 2 includes dental care in the expanded coverage under the bill and strikes from the bill's provisions that would have required development of materials and the adoption of regulations related to disenrollment from Medicaid. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments in the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 923 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Onwards with Finance, report number 20. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 771, Senator Hester, Unemployment Insurance, Work-Share Expansion Act of 2021, favorable with 2 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 8th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 771 makes various changes to the Work-Sharing Unemployment Insurance Program. Specifically, the bill allows individuals rehired following a temporary closure due to COVID-19 to be eligible to participate in the program. The bill also expands the range of work hours that may be reduced, provides for flexibility on reductions within a unit, expedites the time frame for application processing, and requires the Department of Labor to undertake specified notice and marketing efforts using available funds. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters the scope of the program requirements in response to feedback form from the Department of Labor, and there was no opposition at the committee hearing. And I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 771 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 816, Senator Klossmeyer, Unemployment Insurance, Employer Contributions, Payment Plans, favorable with 2 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I might just like to say thank you to our staff and actually the House staff as well. We have been working on these bills for quite some time, and I would like everyone, every senator who helped me, thank you to each and every one of them too, because it has been quite a feat. So.
Well said, and thank you, Senator, as the chair of the Joint Committee on Unemployment Insurance. This has been a busy interim, and you've been an excellent leader throughout it, so thank you.
Thank you. So, as amended, Senate Bill 816 expands the requirement that the Secretary of Labor offer payment plans to employers all of the time, not just when the state is in the highest tax table. The bill also alters and clarifies a provision of the Relief Act of Chapter 39 of 2021 at the request of the Department of Labor. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 specifies that an employer who employs fewer than 50 employees and pays by contribution is eligible to defer certain payments during calendar year 2021 and may be eligible to defer certain payments during calendar year 2022, subject to approval by the Secretary, and repeals the provision that authorized the deferral of certain reports. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 816 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 817, Senator Klossmeyer, Unemployment Insurance Study on Systems Reforms, favorable with 2 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. As amended, Senate Bill 817 requires the Maryland Department of Labor, in consultation with the Department of Legislative Services, to study various aspects of the unemployment insurance system, provide monthly status reports to the Joint Committee on Unemployment Insurance Oversight, and submit an interim report by July 1st, 2021, and a final report by December 1st, 2021 to the Governor, Senate Finance Committee, and the House Economic Matters Committee. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters and expands the items included in the study, and there was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 817 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 818, Senator Klossmeyer, Unemployment Insurance, Maryland Department of Labor, Accountability and Oversight, favorable with 3 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. As amended, Senate Bill 818 establishes various reporting requirements for the Maryland Department of Labor, including weekly and monthly posts on the department's website and specified reports to the General Assembly during a disaster in the unemployment insurance system. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 and 3 alter the on and off trigger for the disaster reporting requirements and modify requirements related to staffing during a disaster. There was no opposition at the committee hearing, and I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of 3 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. First on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 818 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 819, Senator Klossmeyer, Unemployment Insurance Weekly Benefit Amount, Income Disregard, favorable with 1 amendment. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
As amended, Senate Bill 819 increases from $50 to $200 the amount of other income that is disregarded when determining a claimant's unemployment benefits during the state of emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Amendment number 1 reduces the dollar amount from $300 to $200, and there was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 1 committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 819 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Thank you again to the Chair of the Joint Committee on Unemployment Insurance. This is a lot of work here that's moving forward. Thank you, Senator. All right, more finance. Just 1 bill on it. Number 21. Clerk will read the bill. Calendar 21.
Senate Bill 893, Senator Rosa Pep, Unemployment Insurance Revisions and Required Study, favorable with 2 amendments. This is an emergency bill.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. As amended, Senate Bill 893 requires the Maryland Department of Labor to take specified actions in administering the state unemployment insurance program, including enhancing applicant and claimant services and enhancing general program administrative procedures. The bill also establishes a process under which a claimant may elect to have information shared between the UI program and the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange to help the claimant receive information about free or subsidized health insurance. The bill requires the exchange to establish a special enrollment period to allow a claimant to secure health insurance coverage and establishes related requirements for the department, the exchange, and the Department of Health. The bill also authorizes counties to request specified demographic data from the department and authorize the department to adopt certain regulations. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters and expands requirements related to health insurance coverages, alters administrative and reporting requirements for the Department of Labor, and removes provision of the bill addressing the income disregard for the claimants and experience rating waiver for employers. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 893 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. All right, we are moving along. We've been successful. We're about a quarter of the way there. So, Education, Health, Environmental Affairs is up next. We'll start with report number 23. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 8, Senator Kagan, General Provisions, State Song Repeal, favorable.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill that's been around a long time. After the shootings at Mother Emanuel, after the murders of Freddie Gray and Breonna Taylor, it has become increasingly obvious that we needed to rid ourselves of Confederate-era and Confederate-themed symbolic presence in our state. In other places, it's been a change to the flag. It's been a statue coming down. In Maryland, it needs to be our state song. It's been around for a long time. I want to give props to my Congressman, Jamie Raskin, who wrote a great song, but this is not about a replacement. We have a lot of important work to do. This is important, but it's symbolic. This bill simply puts brackets around our existing law books on the lyrics, and will remove our state song. If we decide to come back to it in the future, we can do so. There were no amendments. The bill passed unanimously in EHE. I move a favorable report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Questions on the report? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 8 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 49, Senator Leeds, State Government, Department of Information Technology, Cybersecurity, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 9 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the number of cybersecurity attacks are increasing. In 2019, Atlanta, Georgia, New Orleans, Pensacola, Florida, and of course our own Baltimore City were attacked. In 2020, we experienced even more. Dorchester County and the Baltimore County schools were shut down. Colleagues, the time is now for us to enact a policy to defend our state from cybersecurity attacks. And I'd like to thank my colleagues in EHE for working with me for the past few weeks on a package of cybersecurity bills. This bill, Senate Bill 49, is the first of those. In terms of the overall package, this one sets the strategy. The Department of Information Technology is currently responsible for developing policies, procedures, and standards. This bill expands their responsibilities to include advising and overseeing a consistent cybersecurity strategy for all of our units of state government. It also includes advising and consulting with the legislative and judicial branches. Finally, it develops guidance on consistent cybersecurity strategies to help our counties, our municipalities, and our local governments. None of the Secretary's new responsibilities can be construed as establishing a mandate on any of our local governments. There are 2 committee amendments. The first one makes technical changes, and the second removes a mandatory consultation with the Attorney General in the creation of a cybersecurity strategy. I urge the adoption of the 2 amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 49 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 69, Senator Hester, Maryland Emergency Management Agency, Cybersecurity Coordination and Operations Office, Establishment, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, as I stated earlier, we must do more to protect our state and local governments against the rising cybersecurity attacks. In our package of 4 bills, Senate Bill 69 is the operational and management bill to accomplish that. This bill does 3 main things. First, it codifies Executive Order 11-2019-07, which establishes the Maryland Cyber Defense Initiative. This creates the position of the State Chief Information Security Officer, the Office of Security Management, and the Cybersecurity Coordinating Council. Second, within this office, the amended bill adds 2 new positions, a Director of Local Cybersecurity and a Director of State Cybersecurity. Third, as amended, this bill requires all state units of government that use Network Maryland to certify their compliance with the department's minimum security standards. And fourth, as amended, the bill requires county governments, local school systems, and local health departments to create a cybersecurity response plan, if they don't already have one, and report this to the Office of Cybersecurity. There are 2 committee amendments. The first makes technical changes, and the second one replaces most of the original text with the content I just described. Mr. President, I move the adoption of the 2 amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor Leader moves for the adoption of 3 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 3 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 69 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 183, Senator Young, Audiology and Speech Language Pathology Interstate Compact, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 38th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 183, like the other health interstate compact bills this body has approved, this bill enters Maryland into the Audiology and Speech Language Pathology Interstate Licensure Compact for audiologists and speech language pathologists. And like the other bills, there are specified procedures and requirements for the audiologists and speech language pathologists to be part of this compact. There were 2 committee amendments. Amendment number 1 makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 makes minor changes to the definition of telehealth. It requires an applicant to have completed a clinical practicum as required by the Commission instead of a licensing board. It allows a member state to recover the cost of adverse actions investigations, permits a member state to take adverse actions against a licensee and to follow the laws of the member state instead of requiring a home state to take adverse actions against a licensee based on the home state laws. I also want to point out that if a member state takes adverse action against a licensee, they must notify every state that the licensee has a privilege to practice in. And finally, to address some concerns about scope of practice, the amendment specifically states that the Commission has no authority to change scope of practice laws in a state that joins the compact. So with these two amendments, I move for a favorable report of Senate Bill 183.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. First on the amendments, any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 183 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 351, Chair, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee, State Government, Protection of Information, Revisions, Maryland Data Privacy Act, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 351 is a departmental bill. It's the third bill in our cybersecurity package, and it expands and enhances the security protocols that govern collection, processing, sharing, and disposal of personal information. Over the past couple of years, DOIT has been working with all of our agencies to make substantial progress, so this bill should not be seen as a heavy lift by our state agencies. The bill excludes public institutions of higher education, but requires that they submit an annual report to the governor on their cybersecurity activities. There are two committee amendments. The first makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 excludes the Maryland 529 board from the bill's provisions and allows local government to solicit support from the Department of Information Technology when developing their cybersecurity best practices. I move for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 351 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 687, Senator Smith, State and Local Housing Programs, affirmatively furthering fair housing, favorable with 4 amendments.
Chair recognizes the... Oh, yes, Senator from Prince George's is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 687 requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to administer its program and activities to affirmatively further fair housing. It further established that local jurisdictions have a duty to affirmatively further fair housing and to establish and require them to submit an assessment of their fair housing before DHCD can provide them with financial assistance. There's a report that will be due December 1, 2022. There are 4 amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 requires the initial report from the department to submit by December 1, 2022, and requires reports to be submitted every 5 years thereafter. Amendment number 3 requires private entities from the requirement of the bill and requires the department to collaborate with nonprofit and other entities. And finally, Amendment number 4 requires the Department of Planning and Department of Housing and Community Development to provide technical assistance to local governments in creating the housing portion of their comprehensive plans. No opposition, minimal financial costs, committee vote 11-0. And Mr. President, I move the 4 amendment and adoption of a favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 687 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 745, Senator Eldredge, Health Occupation State Board of Massage Therapy Examiners, revisions, favorable with one amendment.
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. After we leave Annapolis, we are all certainly in need of a massage, but we want to make sure that they are accredited, that there is a criminal background check that we can find on the website, and that the definition is updated. Senate Bill 745 will do all of that and more. It makes it easy to get reaccredited if you stop practicing for a while. It deals with licensing and registration. There's only one committee amendment. It clarifies that the scope of massage therapy does not include laying on of hands with pressure or movement to affect the electromagnetic energy field of the human body. So with that, that is the one amendment. So I move the favorable report on Senate Bill 745.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 745 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Onwards to calendar number 24. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 300, Senator Peters, Special Education Learning Continuity Plan Requirement, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 9th District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 300 requires that beginning October 1st, 2021, an individualized education program, an IEP, to include a learning continuity plan to be implemented during emergency conditions, which is defined as 10 or more school days during which a child with a disability cannot be provided with an IEP or special education services in person or at school because of specified conditions. There are two committee amendments. The first one is technical and changes the bill's title. Amendment number 2 revises the definition of emergency conditions. It strikes provisions specifying the contents of the learning continuity plan. It requires an IEP team to make reasonable attempts to notify the parents. It strikes provisions making these requirements applicable, and it provides how an IEP team with IEPs in effect during the 2021 school year may fulfill the requirements enacted by this act. It passed our committee 11-0. I urge the adoption of the amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 300 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 405, Senator Augustine, Higher Education Student Identification Cards, Required Information, favorable with two amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Charles County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Bill 405 requires institutions of higher education to provide the telephone number for Maryland's helpline directly on student ID cards or affixed on the card if the institution provides such a card. Additionally, the bill permits institutions to provide numbers for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, Crisis Text Line, or an on-campus crisis center on the student ID card. This bill does not require institutions to reissue or reprint student ID cards in use on the effective date of the bill, or to reprint cards that were printed but not issued before the effective date of the bill. There are two committee amendments. One is technical. Second, conforms the bill to the version passed by the House by authorizing an institution to provide on the student ID card a telephone number for the on-campus crisis center as an alternate to the Maryland's hotline number, and adding the number for the National Domestic Violence Hotline or any on-campus crisis center to the list of numbers the institution may also include on the ID card. The bill passed unanimously in the committee. And therefore, I move for adoption of amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 405 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 415, Senator Pinsky, Public Financing Act, Matching Fund Revisions, Maryland Fair Elections Act, favorable with one amendment.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 415 is the Gubernatorial Public Financing Act. It extends this, which has been in place for a number of years. It modifies the act primarily by modifying the qualifying requirements and matching contributions and mandating appropriations of the Fair Campaign Financing Act of $4 million for fiscal 23, an amount sufficient to fully fund a number of gubernatorial tickets. Currently, there are $3.8 million in the fund, which is not enough to take care of candidates in 2024. There's one amendment, Mr. President. It changes the matching fund to $8 instead of $9 for the first $50 contribution, and it increases the next $50 contribution matching fund from $5 to $6 per dollar. Mr. President, move the 1 committee amendment, favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment. Chair recognizes the senator from the 34th district.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'll just ask that the bill and the amendments lay over under the rules.
Senator's motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will be laid over under the rule. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 438, Senator Washington, Public Schools, Pregnant and Parenting Students, Policies and Reports, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We know that education is key to advancing our students, our families, addressing poverty, and again, ensuring that our state is able to provide the proper education to all Maryland students. SB 438 builds on legislation that we passed in 2017 that established legal and medical reasons for pregnant and parenting students. We're seeing that pregnancy is not an illness, so that these students need not be labeled as truant, and we need to make sure that we can provide ways to take care of their children and that their children have access to health care. So what this bill does is that it encourages and requires school districts to come with a policy. It ensures that there are certain elements to this policy. It ensures that the department will provide some technical assistance to local boards to establish these policies. In addition, the bill requires each local board, and again, we're mandating that the local boards define what is best in their communities, how they're going to educate youth. Back in the day, a long time ago, there'd be special homes or special schools for pregnant women. Increasingly over time, some of these young people are encouraged to do online, and in fact, sometimes the communities are so hostile that they end up dropping out. So the committee has 2 amendments. We felt like we needed to better define parenting student, so we revised the definition of a parenting student. We revised that the lactation space only has to occur in a high school instead of all schools. We're requiring that lactating students have access to a refrigerator located reasonably close to the lactation space. We're requiring that the school can designate at least 1 staff member to connect, so they don't have to hire an additional staff member. They can use existing staff members, and to the extent practical, connect them to resources. There was some concern in the original drafting that somehow we were requiring departments to provide transportation and to provide child care. The committee is clarifying that we just want to provide them with the information they need to access those services. And again, finally, we want to ensure that the act may not ever be construed as requiring the construction or the addition of new space to a new school building to provide for lactation space. These are the 2 committee amendments. It was passed unanimously. I ask for adoption of the committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report is amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 438 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 526, Senator McCray, Legal Education Success Collaborative, established, favorable with two amendments.
Chair, recognizes Senator from District 43 is the floor leader.
Sorry, I was so excited about the last one. I'm also excited about this one. Again, now we're going to higher education, where we continue to provide opportunity for students that, who excel and who want to do well. This is that we're establishing a legal education success collaborative. It's actually building on some successful projects that are already in existence. And this is centering it at the University of Baltimore School of Law, the University of Maryland School of Law, and also making connections with our historically black colleges and universities. There are two committee amendments. One makes a technical amendment to the change of the purpose. The second amendment requires that the University of Baltimore School of Law develop and administer the UB Law and HBCU cooperative. In the original draft, there was creating an additional position. It would be external to it. The committee and the bill sponsor felt it would be better to incorporate these individuals into the existing programs. We revised the mandatory appropriation to $125,000 a year, reducing the fiscal impact. It strikes the appropriation and requirements for that coordinator position that I described earlier. And also it requires the University of the two law schools to provide matching funds. Again, we want to support these programs, but we want to make sure that the institutions have some skin in the game and are engaged in this way. I ask you to adopt the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the two committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendments say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 526 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 649, Senator Griffith, Procurement, Department of General Services, MBE Program Compliance Officer, favorable with three amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator from Charles County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate Bill 649, the new title MBE Program Compliance, Review and Oversight. This bill is amended, strengthens the role and authority of the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs, and implemented the state's Minority Business Enterprise, MBE, program. The bill requires the office to review and make recommendations regarding proposed MBE participation goals and sub-goals for specified procurement contracts with an estimated value of $1 million or more before those contracts are awarded. The bill also enhances existing reporting requirements and make other changes aimed at increasing MBE participation in various categories of state procurement. There are three committee amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment 2 strikes language that would have required the Department of General Services to appoint an MBE compliance officer within the Office of State Procurement, and instead strengthens the current MBE oversight responsibilities of the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women Business Affairs as specified. And Amendment 3 requires the Department of Legislative Services to conduct a review of the implementation of statutory and regulatory requirements of the MBE program and to report back to specified committees of the General Assembly on or before December 15, 2021. This bill passed unanimously in the EHE 11-0. Therefore, I move for adoption of amendments and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the three committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Three committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 649 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 658, Senator Kagan, Maryland Department of Emergency Management, Establishment and Transfer of Maryland 911 Board, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill is the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think you all know that for the last 3 years we've had a statewide 911 commission that has made recommendations, and this body and our partners across the hall have passed legislation that has put Maryland at the forefront nationally of shifting to next generation 911. This bill, Senate Bill 658, has been something that's been a struggle, but we finally got the Commission's unanimous support, and it's about where and how to make our emergency management work most effectively. The Maryland Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, has been located and is located today under the Military Department. The 911 Board is under the Department of Public Safety and Corrections with our inmates or with our prison guards. Neither of those things made sense. So this bill moves MEMA to become an independent agency, a department, reporting directly to the governor, and moves the 911 Board to move as an autonomous agency under the MEMA as a new department. So I want to give a shout out to my colleagues, especially my friend from District 33 and the wonderful new senator from District 27 who have been on this journey. There is one technical amendment, and that is just to make sure that the employees who are currently at DPSCS get the same benefits and everything transferred to them when this moves. There was no opposition, and this will allow a lot of benefits as we seek to save lives and property in Maryland. Move the favorable report with the amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the senator from Harford and Baltimore counties.
Thank you. Just a quick question for the floor leader.
On the amendments, Senator?
On the bill.
Yes,
can we take the amendments up?
Sure.
Or is,
well, just real quick, on the amendments
will
too.
the senator yield for a question?
So,
Senator may proceed.
So, you're creating an own independent agency. Are you still going to keep it up at Camp Frederick? Is it still going to be based?
Sorry,
physically,
so hard
is
to
it still going to be
understand.
based, headquartered where it is now?
Thank you for asking that. They plan currently to stay in their offices. This will be more of an on-paper move and, frankly, a website and HR and procurement and oversight collaboration while keeping the 911 Board as an independent and autonomous agency, but under MEMA.
The tag and the National Guard still going to be associated with them, working with them?
Nothing else will change. We're just going to move them on the org chart.
Okay.
And it will benefit the 911 Board, and MEMA will have a clear line of command, as they have been through this pandemic, to the governor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. All right. On the amendments, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 658 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 767, Senator Washington, Higher Education, Hunger-Free Campus Grant Program, established, favorable.
Chair recognizes the sponsor of the bill as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a hat trick here. First, we made sure that our pregnant and parenting students are getting what they need. We want to make sure that the legal profession of Maryland is diverse and represents its population. And now, again, in this effort to make sure that students are able to be successful, we have found not only through this pandemic, but certainly that hunger is something that affects all Marylanders all across the state, but it's also affecting our college students. What this bill does is makes an initial attempt to support the existing programs that provide food for students that are struggling. It's part of a national movement to create what we call hunger-free campuses. And so there'll be a hunger-free campus grant program created within MHEC. The grant program will begin in fiscal '23 with an appropriation of $150,000. The communities will be able to apply for that. Within 2 years after establishing the program, MHEC must report on the implementation of the bill. We want to make sure that we're doing it right, that we get feedback. There are no committee amendments. It passed. Everyone supported the bill. So I ask for your favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 767 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Important update, got a message from my wife who put our proceedings on to show the kids because normally they're in school during our proceedings. Verdict is, Dad, your job is boring. So it is official. It is official. We are halfway through EHE, on to calendar 25. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 205, Senator Heddleman, alcoholic beverages, sale or delivery for off-premises consumption, favorable with 3 amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We can liven it up if you want. So this bill passed unanimously out of our committee, and it basically codifies the executive order for helping restaurants during this hard time that have been hit really hard, where they can deliver or have off-premise consumption of alcohol, and then it sunsets in 2 years and we reevaluate it. So to the specifics of the bill, as amended, Senate Bill 205 authorizes counties to adopt a local law or resolution allowing restaurants, bars, and taverns to sell and deliver alcohol beverages for off-premise consumption or delivery as specified. A local licensing board may not charge an additional fee for the alcoholic beverage license holder for selling or delivering alcoholic beverages under a local law or ordinance authorized by this bill. There were 3 amendments. The first is technical. The second adds language requiring counties to opt into the bill's provisions through the passage of local laws or ordinances, sets ages, training requirements for the delivery personnel, and authorizes local licensing boards of the county that implements the bill to limit the quantity of alcohol beverages that may be sold or delivered to a customer in a single transaction. Amendment number 3 adds a 2-year sunset provision terminating the bill and any local law or ordinance adopted under the bill on June 30th, 2023. I move the amendments in the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of 3 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Chair recognizes Senator from the representing College Park.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. President. Is there anything in the bill that would restrict the county from geographically limiting the locations where this could be done?
The only geographic is that they can't sell it in another jurisdiction.
But would they have the power to say you can do it in this part of the county but not that part of the county?
There's no limitations on that.
They could restrict it that way.
I do not believe they could.
I mean, they'd have to let everybody do it or nobody do it?
So if a county enacts this framework, that would apply for their county. They could limit the amount of alcohol that is sold in a single transaction, but I believe that's the only limitation.
Okay, if we could, I'd like to special order this or lie over, whatever's the appropriate thing to take a closer look at this particular issue.
Senator wishes to lay the bill over under the rule. The motion is in order. The bill and the amendment will be laid over under the rule.
Thank you.
Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 446, Senator West, Department of the Environment, Supplemental Environmental Projects Database, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Howard and Baltimore counties as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 446 defines a supplemental environmental project and requires that the Maryland Department of the Environment create and maintain a database of these projects from which a person who violates the environmental article may choose to undertake. The department must solicit input from communities in the state that are more impacted by environmental justice issues when creating and maintaining the database. And lastly, the department must ensure that the scope and cost of the chosen project is commensurate with the scope and cost of a violation before a violator undertakes a project. There are 2 committee amendments. The first one is technical. Amendment number 2 requires the department to prioritize the selection of supplemental environmental projects located in the same geographic area as the alleged violations. This passed the committee unanimously. Move the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments in the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The two committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 446 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 453, Senator Edwards, Allegheny County and Garrett County archery hunting safety zone favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 35 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 453 is a local bill that decreases the archery hunting safety zone in Allegheny and Garrett counties from 150 yards to 50 yards from a dwelling house, residence, church, or any other building or camp occupied by people. This would be consistent with the safety zone currently established for archery hunters in Calvert, Carroll, Cecil, Frederick, Harford, Montgomery, St. Mary's, and Washington counties. There are no committee amendments. There is no fiscal impact. I move for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Discussion on the report. All in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 453 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 737, Senator Rosapep, Comprehensive Conservation Finance Act, favorable with 4 amendments.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This legislation tries to incorporate some very innovative and new ways to finance cleaning up and restoration of the bay in our environment. It's endorsed by the Department of the Environment, Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Natural Resources, which is a trifecta. It expands opportunities for agencies to obtain private investment and financing for state environmental projects. It utilizes the pay-for-success contracting, which means people will invest money, but they have to hit certain metrics or they don't get paid. It also expands the use of the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund and the Maryland Drinking Water Quality Revolving Loan Fund. It also removes barriers to the participation by farmers and other private landowners in carbon markets. There are a couple of amendments, Mr. President. First one is technical. Second one says participants in the Department of Agriculture's cost-sharing program are able to participate in greenhouse gas markets, carbon credits, and soil carbon programs. Amendment 3 clarifies language authorizing the Department of DNR to enter into certain partnerships with private sector organizations with experience in carbon offset markets and programs. And finally, Amendment 4 adds the Department of General Services to the list of departments authorized to use the pay-for-success contracting to procure environmental outcomes. This, we believe, works very well with the Clean Water Commerce Act that we passed from the Chair of B&T about a week ago. We think they work in tandem, although there's one small floor amendment after we adopt the report to clarify that any overlap. So, Mr. President, move adoption of the 4 committee amendments, favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 4 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 4 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title?
Mr. President, we have a floor amendment.
Yes, Chair. Amendment number, Senator?
904630/1.
Just give us one moment to plug it in.
Sure.
Senator may proceed.
Yeah, again, Mr. President, this clarifies the interplay between this bill and Senate Bill 119, the Clean Water Commerce Act of 2021. It exempts the purchase of nitrogen load reductions with funds from the Clean Water Commerce account from more general provisions. Move adoption of the floor amendment.
Senator moves the committee's amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 1 additional committee amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 737 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Last second reading calendar, let's make sure. Yeah, last second reading calendar for Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs, number 26. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 85, Senator Rosapep, creating Governor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, favorable with 1 amendment.
Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 85 sets up a Governor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. As you can tell from the title, it's going to make life a lot more efficient for those who need help in everything from becoming a citizen to getting health care, education, multilingual services, and others. About 15% of Maryland residents are foreign-born. This is a large population, then this is going to be common sense. It's been done in other states. There is a committee amendment that will, yikes, I need my glasses for the committee amendment. The committee amendment states that funding for some of the services contingent on available funds. But there are going to be annual reports to the governor on the number of people that use the services and the demands for the various opportunities to pull together our folks. So with that, move the favorable report with the committee amendment.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendment. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the floor leader yield for a question?
On the amendment, Senator?
Yes.
All right, Senator, may proceed.
Sure.
With the amendments and the amended version that we're considering, or the amendments we're considering, does this bill distinguish between establishing an department distinguish between welcoming immigrants who have gone through the process legally to be here present legally, or does this for anyone who is here, whether they've arrived through the legal process or not?
So that amendment does not speak to that, nor does the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. On the amendment, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 85 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 636, Senator Hayes, Housing and Community Development, Neighborhood Revitalization, Passive House Pilot Program, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Hello, Mr. President. Senate Bill 636 is both a job training and a economic development program. It establishes a passive house pilot program within DHCD to assist nonprofit organizations that are providing students career and technical educational experiences through the renovation of residential properties. The bill establishes the passive house pilot program, and you asked what is a passive house. Again, that is one of the most energy efficient house that you can create. It's very tight. There is good airflow and ventilation, so it really will be sort of a job of the future. There are no committee amendments, so I ask for your adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leaders move for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Questions on the report? Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 636 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 699, Senator McCray, Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative Program Fund, favorable.
Chair recognizes the senator from Baltimore City as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 699, the Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, also referred to as Bernie. This bill just simply extends the existing very productive, positive program through 2026. There are no committee amendments, so I ask for your favorable committee adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Discussion on the report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 699 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 749, Senator Ellis, Charles County Board of Education, membership alterations, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Charles County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 749, the local Charles County bill, passed the EHE committee unanimous 11-0. This bill has 2 amendments. Amendment number 1 makes technical changes to the bill's title. Amendment number 2 alters the number of elected members from 7 to 9 on the Charles County Board of Education requires 2 members to be elected from each of 4 county commissioner districts and 1 member to be elected at large. It strikes the provisions requiring the county commissioners to fill board vacancies, authorizes the State Board of Education to remove the student member in the same manner as an elected member of the board. It also authorizes the student member to vote on all matters except those specified in this bill. I move for the amendments and for adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the 2 amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 749 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 845, Senator Benson, Education, Workforce Development, Sequence Scholarships, Eligibility, favorable with 2 amendments.
Mr. President.
Yes, Chair recognizes the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know it's hard to see around here.
Just long, my eyes can't see anymore.
I get it. So Senate Bill 845 is going to expand just by a little the opportunity to get a workforce development sequence scholarships. This had no opposition. It passed unanimously. There were 2 minor amendments. The first was technical, and the second defined the eligible student. And I move the bill, the favorable committee report as amended.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 845 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 895, Senator Rosapep, University System of Maryland Student Fees, Review and Retention, favorable with 2 amendments.
Chair recognizes the senator from Charles County as the floor leader.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 895 requires that when setting mandatory and non-mandatory student fees, the president of each University System of Maryland institution must present information on such fees for review by a committee of students. The information presented to the committee must include 1, the amount of the fee, 2, the students who will be charged the fee, and 3, the proposed use of revenues from the fee. Unless the student committee reviews an exception to the use of the fee, revenues derived from fees as reviewed by the committee must be retained by the campus unit or department that imposed the fee. There are 2 committee amendments. Amendment number 1 makes technical changes to the bill's title. And amendment number 2 revises the short title of the bill. It names the Fee Review and Student Committee the Student Fee Committee of Record and requires certain fees reviewed by the Student Fee Committee to be spent rather than retained by the campus unit or department that requested the fee in a manner consistent with the intended purpose for which the fee exists, except if an exception is reviewed by the Student Fee Committee. No fiscal impact. This bill passed the committee unanimously. Therefore, I move for adoption of the amendments and favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. Question on the amendments. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the favorable committee report as amended. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 895 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reader. All right, off we go. Let's do a quorum call before 3rd reading calendar. If we could also ring the bells, please. Oh, wait, Senators. Actually, Senators, before we do that, we have one special order. Let's get this one done. The one that we had the amendment waiting on. If we could pull up the special order with roadways, highways, something along those lines.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Just hold on one second. We got to find the bill. Oh, yes, clerk will read the bill.
I just don't have the
No rush, we're good. We got plenty of time.
I'll just read it from here, okay. Senate Bill 726, Senator Feldman, Vehicle Laws, Personal Delivery Devices, Standards and Requirements. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
All right, question is on the report. The Vice Chair of the committee has an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment number 423-726/1.
726, give us just a moment, please, Senator. Oh, I'm sorry. We have not adopted the report yet? Senator, give us just one moment. If you could just withdraw that motion would be out of order in the second. Let's adopt the report as amended. Any discussion on the report before we take up amendments? If not, all in favor of the report, say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report as amended is adopted. The senator would like to renew that motion. Do we have the senator's motion available?
423-726/1.
Senator may explain the amendment.
It, in 5 places, changes the word highway to roadway.
Highway to roadway. Chair recognizes the floor leader.
Move the amendment.
Mr. President, the floor leader accepts the amendment as a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment. Any objections to the senator's amendment? If not, the amendment is adopted. I'm sorry. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 726 is hereby ordered printed for third reader. Quorum called before third reader calendar.
Mr. President.
Has everybody recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 46 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. We are on third reading calendar. Yes.
I didn't push the green on that one.
Oh,
Maybe
if we could, without objection, record the senator's presence on the quorum call. Senator from the 34th District. All right. We are going to start with third reading calendar number 30. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 275, Senator Hester, Maryland Department of Health, Residential Service Agencies, Training Requirements.
Senate Bill 275 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone should change their vote, explain their vote. If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 275, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 444, Senator West, Transforming Manufacturing in a Digital Economy Work Group, Making It in Maryland.
Senate Bill 444 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 444, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. I can't get past the Parkway. I'm sorry. Declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 485, Senator Augustine, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Dental Prophylaxis, Care, and Oral Health Exams.
Senate Bill 485 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 485, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 516, Senator Klossmeyer, State Board of Environmental Health Specialists, Fees General Fund.
Senate Bill 516 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 516, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 517, Senator Klossmeyer, State Board of Physical Therapy Examiners, temporary licenses to practice physical therapy and limited physical therapy.
Senate Bill 517 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 517, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 537, Senator Hershey, pharmacist, required notification of authorized substitution, lower cost drug or device product.
Senate Bill 537 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will... Oh, no? No? Discussion? All right. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 537, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 386, Harford County Senators, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages Assisted Living Program License.
Madam Clerk, I think we're 565.
Okay. Senate Bill 565, Senator Griffith, Public Health Data, Race, and Ethnicity Information.
Senate Bill 565 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 565, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 571, the President, Interstate License Professional Counselors Compact. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 571 is on third reading for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 571, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 646, Senator Carosa, Alcohol and Drug Counseling, Alcohol and Drug Trainees Practice Through Telehealth.
Senate Bill 646 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 646, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 789, Senator McCray, Baltimore City, Visit Baltimore Appropriation Calculation.
Senate Bill 789 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 789, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 883, Senator Gazzoni, tobacco tax, out-of-state sales of premium cigars and pipe tobacco.
Senate Bill 883 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 883, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 927, Senator Pinsky, Institutions of Higher Education, Prohibition Against Incentive Payments, Foreign Student Exemption.
Senate Bill 927 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 927, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, Senators, the next...
Mr. President?
Oh, yes. Where are we?
Can I go from green to red on Senate Bill 444?
40th District. What was the number again, Senator?
444.
444 from what to what?
Green to red.
Green to red on 444. All right, any objections? Without objections, Senator vote will be changed on 444. All right. Next calendar, Senators, is a consent calendar. Clerk will read the calendar.
Senate third reading calendar number 31, consent number 1.
All right, Senators, these are the alcohol bills. They're in third reader for final passage. Please scroll through, make sure if there are any bills. Are there any bills that Senators wish to separate out? Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, all Senate bills on consent calendar number 1 are hereby declared passed. All right, our next calendar is 32. Clerk will read the first bill. That's all right.
Senate Bill 9, Senator Kramer, State Employees Collective Bargaining, Applicability, Bargaining Processes, and Memorandums of Understanding.
Senate Bill 9 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 9, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 66, Senator Ellsworth, Department of Housing and Community Development, Office of Digital Inclusion, establish Digital Connectivity Act of 2021. This is an emergency bill.
Senate Bill 66 is on third reader for final passage. Senators, this is an emergency bill. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 66, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 240, Chair Budget and Taxation Committee, Maryland Information Technology Development Project Fund, Sources of Revenue.
Senate Bill 240 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 240, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 362, Senator McCray, Transportation Highway User Revenues Distribution.
Senate Bill 362 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 362, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 376, Senator Kagan, Maryland Nonprofit Development Center Program, Nonprofit Interest-Free Microbridge Loan Account Funding.
Senate Bill 376 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 376, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 494, Senator West, Juveniles Convicted as Adults Sentencing, Limitations and Reduction, Juvenile Restoration Act.
Senate Bill 494 is on third reading for final passage. Any discussion? Chair recognizes Senator from the 34th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we talk on this floor a lot about redemption. And that's appropriate because we really should, throwing a life away is a terrible thing to do. And we really ought to be very cautious in doing it, particularly young lives. But what we've tried to do here in discussing this bill in this body is to make folks appreciate that sometimes people are capable of just such despicable evil, horrendous acts that impact so many lives that they can never be recovered. The families, the survivors, certainly let alone the murder victims. And we see throughout our country and this world how in this modern day and age there really is no limit to the horror that an individual can inflict upon an innocent society. It's really amazing in a very sad way. And what we've tried to set out on this side of the aisle is that our courts need to have the discretion, the ability to, we can't take this. It's the kind of decisions like in the past when we've sent young 18-year-olds to storm the beaches of Normandy, and many of them into the face of certain death, because we said that the evil that they were combating, the pure evil that they had to overcome, was worth risking their lives, and in many cases taking their lives. Those are tough decisions to make for any society. Certainly as a parent, I hope that my government thinks long and hard before they would risk the lives of one of my children to achieve such ends. But people throughout this country, throughout our history, have risen to that level. They've taken on the very courageous, the very difficult task of saying, we're going to risk a life because the cause is just. We're going to see young 18-year-olds be mowed down by the hundreds and the thousands and the 10,000s and the 50,000s. And what we've tried to say is that the cause is just. In this case, that in some matters, the evil is just so outrageous. It's so outrageous that we just cannot let our human desire for redemption overcome our moral obligations to the greater society. That people who would inflict such evil on our society must know that our society, that this state will stand. That we will stand, and I know we won't kill you anymore, but we will stand against you. And we will demand that because of the evil that you inflicted, that you will not walk in our streets at any time. I don't think it's too much. In fact, I think it's incumbent upon us. I think we have a moral responsibility to look evil in the eye, to look evil square in the eye, and say, we just stopped you. We stopped you. And does it hurt? Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. Anytime you're responsible for inflicting justice, it hurts. That's tough to do. To know that you've changed a life, you've shut a life down, or you've taken a life. It hurts. That's not an easy thing to bear in your mind. But sometimes we have to step up. We have to show the courage necessary to overcome and confront pure evil square on and not give 1 inch. And I'm very sorry that this body has decided that we're not going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Senator from District 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had an extensive debate on a number of amendments to this bill yesterday. And there was a couple of themes that emerged from those who are advocating in support of this legislation that I want to address. You know, actually, in one of the other bills, the awful South Carolina massacre from 2015 was referenced. One of the most amazing things that happened after that terrible, evil, wicked act by a young person not much older than the people we're talking about here, but an adult, was that the surviving members of this church showed up at the courtroom and told this young man that they forgave him and that they would pray for him. It shows the power of forgiveness and the power of redemption in our society, and it is something that we should applaud and encourage. And as my colleague from Harford County mentioned, our desire for redemption and seeing redemption in others is something that we should encourage and support, and can sometimes lead to someone receiving a second chance or a third chance. But that forgiveness by those wonderful people in South Carolina did not absolve the need for justice for the killer. It did not absolve the need for, yes, punishment for the acts that he committed. There are acts that must have permanent consequences. Some acts so heinous that there must be permanent consequences. We as a society have to draw a bright line, and we can debate about where that line is, but we need to draw a bright line as it relates to people who would wantonly disregard human life to a degree like some of the cases that we've heard about, that we read about on the floor yesterday. Cases support this bill. Again, I have great respect for the fact that they have forgiveness and they support it, but there are hosts of people who are relatives of victims who abjectly do not. And as I said yesterday, the direct victims of the people sitting in jail that we are referring to, the small number, the very small number, they're all dead. So they can't speak. Second thing we heard about, that I hear about quite frequently, and we've heard in this, I've heard more of this in some of the communications I've received as opposed to on the floor, but it may have been referenced on the floor, was the debate over age, that these folks who were minors at the time of their offense, that what we understand about science now is, and brain development, says that they couldn't know what they were doing, or they didn't completely grasp what they were doing, or they're not fully developed and understanding. And you know, if it was a 13 or 14-year-old, in some cases, perhaps there's an argument there, and actually, quite frankly, that's, I know, considered by the justice system when these kind of cases are tried. But this body, just this session, voted to allow children as young as 12 to consent to mental health treatment without their parents' involvement. Many, many years ago, we made this body and the body across the hall made a decision that children can have an abortion without their parents' consent as minors. There's been a push to allow minors to vote in elections. Not legislation here, I don't believe, but a lot of our municipalities allow minors as young as 16 and 15 to vote in elections. And actually, in a couple of our counties, I believe, I know at least one of our counties, even middle school children can vote for an elected school board member to go vote in the school board. So let's not say for a minute here that because someone is 17 and a half that we can't treat them like they're different than perhaps they're 11 or 12. When you have been found competent to stand trial for a triple murder, rape and murder at 17 or 17 and a half, yes, you are still a minor, but we can't have it both ways. We can't say that a 12-year-old is young enough to consent to mental health treatment without their parents, but then say, but we can't put a 17-and-a-half-year-old in jail for life without parole when they've murdered 3 people or 4 people in cold blood in a premeditated fashion. So, Mr. President, I would strongly urge us to vote no on this bill. I understand the dynamics of this chamber. I understand the dynamics externally, the pressures that come in. But what we do, there's nobody in this chamber on the Republican side of the aisle that has been any more supportive of criminal justice reform, justice reinvestment. Others have, but I've been right there. This is not about that. This is a societal choice to draw a bright line between good and evil. So I would urge the body to vote red on this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any senators who have not yet spoken who wish to speak? If not, Chair recognizes the Minority Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And as been mentioned, the role of rehabilitation by the state. But there are other roles that the state has that are also important in the criminal justice system. One being deterrence, a second being punishment, and lastly being protection for the public. So we should not lose sight that our sole purpose of the criminal justice system is rehabilitation. It's also deterrence, punishment, and protection. As my colleague from District 5 pointed out, the multitude of other roles that and responsibilities we give young people. 76% of known juvenile homicide offenders were age 16 or 17. These are individuals that in Maryland we allow to enter into marriage contracts, we allow to drive, we allow them to make decisions that are far more sophisticated than the simple decision to take another person's life. Simple in that, the simple moral reasoning. It's absurd to think that one must be mature enough to drive carefully, register to vote, and yet they are not mature enough to understand that murdering a human being is profoundly wrong. I'd like to speak, too, that this puts
a sentence on the families who've endured a trial and then a sentence and have been led to believe that the perpetrators would be sentenced to life without parole. A legal finality had been reached in the case of their murdered loved ones. When a juvenile murderer is sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, there is a legal finality that is achieved for that family. The pain that the surviving family members experience when their loved one is violently and horrifically murdered is indescribable. And it was mentioned some were in favor of this, but I can tell you one of the cases I mentioned on the floor about the young man at the Burger King that was in the terrible holdup and beating. You know, I pulled the newspaper story from that. And the father talked about he was so distraught that when his son was young, by the way. His son was only 21 years old. A lot of these victims are young people too. And the father said in the Baltimore Sun article that over the year after his son's life was taken, he was so distraught he couldn't work anymore, and he was contemplating suicide, and he visited his son's grave every day. But now, because we don't have life without parole, the possibility for parole for these murderers is real. These families will have to go through an unrelenting series of parole hearings in which the victims' families must repeatedly oppose parole, and this will prolong their suffering. They must repeatedly try to convince a judge that the killer should not be released. Such a process requires the family to constantly re-engage with the offender and the pain that has devastated them. Regardless of whether a juvenile is capable of being rehabilitated, misses a larger issue: the possibility that an individual who commits an especially heinous murder, one or two or multiple ones, as we've talked about the DC sniper and others, means that without having life without parole, this individual will have the possibility to walk free, and perhaps while he or she still has more than half of their life ahead of them. To me, that is a miscarriage of justice. All 50 states recognize that some individuals under 18 cannot be adequately handled within the juvenile system. Every state has laws that allow juveniles who commit violent crimes to be prosecuted and sentenced as adults. To broadly conclude that no juvenile killer can ever, without reliability, be classified among the worst offenders, no matter the crime or the offense, to me is a grave miscalculation, and I believe is a grave misjustice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Question before the body is Senate Bill 494 on third reading. Any further discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from District 10.
Colleagues, many people do heinous crimes because they're mentally ill. Some do them because they simply have rage regarding the neglect that they have experienced or the violence that they have experienced. And all of us, to some degree, as members of the society, and as people who can help to make public policy and help to share the scarce resources that society has, should be doing more to make sure that kids who don't have a chance, who don't have love, who've never been hugged, who don't have food right there, and I'm sure there are thousands of them in our state tonight who have nothing, and no adult, in some cases, because of reasons that are beyond the means of a family. Many essential workers have children that are being neglected because the pandemic came. They don't have the means to have a nanny taking care of their kids while they go out and stand at 6 a.m. in the morning waiting for the bus. And when they come home late at night and there really isn't food. Some of these kids who are not in school because of this pandemic are 8 and 9-year-olds who are themselves having to function in the role of a parent for the toddler or the baby. Many of us have been so blessed by God that we don't have any idea that not everybody had somebody to hug them and to rock them to sleep, to give them food, to be able to provide them with shelter. Many of them go to schools and deal with other neighborhood institutions that are callous about the circumstances of these kids, or that simply people are getting along so well, relatively speaking, they don't realize that other people are suffering, that they've never known love, they've never known consistency in their lives. They've never had anybody to encourage them. They've never had a birthday party. They never had anything. Many of the very institutions that many of us belong to are part of the problem. And I hope that we don't find ourselves being so smug about our righteousness while people around us have nothing. And we don't have because we were so good. We were lucky. Finally, I'd like to just remind you that you've heard a lot of citations of Supreme Court cases. JPR has cited many of them in the last few days regarding the fact that it is known that neurologically the brain of a child, even a teenager, is not finally formed and functioning. Be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for your ability to reason, but learn to be merciful to some degree. Some of the people who have done heinous crimes while children are flinging their hands and maybe a gun because they are living in a state of rage. They have nothing whatsoever. And they don't even have respect, even when they're toddlers, from anybody. And we don't have the kind of supportive institutions in our society. I'm glad we are here. I hope we are doing some good, but we haven't done nearly enough good for people who are born into nothing and in some cases will die with nothing. We are not so good and so righteous that we should have more than that. Life is not even, and it isn't fair. And when you're talking about a child, some of them will not be able to ever be rehabilitated given what they have done wrong and given many other factors about their life circumstances. But some can. And I think I mentioned, and I'm going to shut up, last week, the person about whom I wrote to the parole commission this week. Because although he was born into a good family, when an intruder broke into the house, shot the dog, tied up his father, and raped his mother in front of this young boy, the rage was there. He didn't know how to live. They did the best they could trying to help him to dissuade some of that rage. I wrote because now it's about 40 years later. I knew his parents when he was a young kid. His father was a medical doctor and his mother a social worker. But it was nothing they could see in your mother raped by an intruder and your father tied up and helpless and the dog shot. You don't know the kinds of traumatic things that have happened to some of the kids. Since he's been there, he's gotten a college degree. We think he's done a lot of other things right. The parole commission in 2010 recommended him for parole. They gave him parole, but the governor didn't agree. I'm not sure why governors know more than parole commissioners who spend time studying systematically, sometimes for years, the progress or lack thereof of a given inmate when the minimum time or more than that has been reached. I won't say more. I'm the oldest one in here, so I've seen more than all of you. I've seen a lot. And I know that no good that I can do or that all of us could do in concert with each other is sufficient, and we aren't doing all we should to help the life circumstances of many people who, but for the grace of God, go all of us. I won't say more, but we shouldn't be so self-righteous. We should be more merciful. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senate Bill 494 is on third reader for final passage. Any further discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from Prince George's.
You know, thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to get up to say anything. Juveniles convicted as adults. Let me tell you all something. I'm a former school administrator. In 2015, I received a phone call in my office that one of my beloved students, talented and gifted, was incarcerated in Denver, Colorado. I got on the first thing smoking, and I went to Denver to see about my beloved student, only to find out that he had gone out there with his mother, to be with his mother. He was living with his grandmother. This youngster was talented and gifted, a humble little soul. And when I got to Denver, I discovered that he was with a crowd, and he was standing there when one of the kids, they were with adults now, but one of the students had a gun and killed a man. He's never been in an ounce of trouble. They arrested everyone who was in the crowd. And when Curtis went to court, never been in an ounce of trouble, a juvenile at the age of 15 was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And for 5 years, I traveled back and forth to Denver, Colorado, because I knew. He said, Miss Benson, I did not commit the crime. The court said he didn't commit the crime, but because he was standing there, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. But I fought for my student for 5 years. Guess what? I went out there and I went to legislature, we went to court, we went to the Supreme Court. I did whatever I had to do to get that baby child out of that prison. We got him out. We flew to Denver, Colorado, and got that baby freed. He came back here to the great state of Maryland. He has been out for 2 years. He worked on his degree. He is doing super. He said, Miss Benson, I turned the corner when I was 20 years old. For 10 years, he was in solitary confinement, you all. He didn't commit a crime. He didn't kill anybody. And here in the state of Maryland, the senator who just spoke and a group of us have been very concerned because we are the only state in Maryland, in the country, where juveniles are sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Even though they have not committed the crime, they could be standing with an adult. The adult commits the crime, kills someone, but that juvenile does not have the same opportunity as the person who committed the crime. That person who committed a crime, after a few years, is eligible for parole, but not that juveniles. The juveniles automatically sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. You tell me if that's fair. It's not fair, but thank God, Curtis is doing wonderful. And we can do that same thing for a number of our juveniles who are incarcerated here in the state of Maryland for a crime they didn't commit. So hey, look at here. Not all juveniles who committed a crime is charged as an adult who committed the crime. So cut this foolishness out and think about your own family. There, by the grace of God, goeth any of you in here.
All right. Thank you, Senator. Senate Bill 494 is on third reader for final passage. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 32 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 494, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill. Before that, Chair recognizes the Chair of the committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The hour's late, so I'll be very brief. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues from across the aisle for the spirited and the quality debate. This is an extremely tough issue, one of the toughest issues to come out of our committee, even in this year. But I did want to read something from a former judge, circuit court judge from Montgomery County, about this bill. She said, having been involved with the juvenile justice system for over 45 years as a prosecutor, defense attorney, and a trial judge, I've seen these cases from all angles. Without a doubt, we here in Maryland often prosecute and punish children much too harshly in a system designed for adults. The Juvenile Restoration Act will provide appropriate second chances to those children now that they are mature adults who have been rehabilitated and are ready for a life outside of prison. Now is the time to finally recognize that a child who commits a serious crime at the age of 16 is not the same person 20 years later. So my colleagues in the body who voted green, your green vote here tonight affirms the belief that there is a modicum of redemption in the human condition, and this legislation moves us toward that end. So thank you very much, Mr. President, and to my colleagues.
Thank you, Senator. The clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 508, Senator Peters, Public Utilities, Net Energy Metering.
Senate Bill 508 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 508, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 556, Senator Young, Collective Bargaining, Maryland School for the Deaf, Application and Separate Bargaining Unit.
Senate Bill 556 is on third reader for final passage. Senators, please, can someone please? All right. 556 is on third reader for final passage. Any further discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 556, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 616, Senator McCray, Baltimore City Soil Conservation District, Authority to Establish.
Senate Bill 616 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 616, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 780, Senator Pinsky, States of Emergency, Emergency Procurement, and Budget Amendments, Notice and Authorization.
Senate Bill 780 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote? Explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 780, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. I think we're on our final calendar of the evening. Clerk will read calendar number 33.
Senate third reading calendar number 33, consent number 2.
All right, Senators, the bills on consent calendar number 2 are bills that were amended on second reader. If there are any bills that Senators wish to remove, now would be the time. Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County.
Yes, Mr. President, I would appreciate it if you would separate out Senate Bill 694. Thank you.
694, 695. All right. So that what is before the body at this point is consent calendar number 2 minus Senate Bill 694, which we will take up afterwards. All right. Any discussion on the bills before we vote? If not, The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 47 votes in the affirmative, the Senate bills on consent calendar number 2, but not Senate Bill 694, having received a constitutional majority, are declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 694, Senator Young, Frederick County Barbershop and Beauty Salon Beer and Wine Licenses Alterations.
Senate Bill 694 is on third reader for final passage. Any discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Anyone wish to change their vote, explain their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. With 46 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 694, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. All right, Senators, it is before 10 o'clock. This is simple. This is nothing. Child's play. All right, the desk is clear for the day. That said, we had a lot of layovers, which is fine. Everyone's got to review their work, but it just means there's a lot left still. So we're going to start tomorrow at 11, not 12. So for those senators who have to get tested, please try to get it a little bit earlier. But we'll start at 11. We'll go for a while. We'll see how far we get. There's probably likely committee votes or hearings after, and we'll see. It is likely we will have a second session Friday, and we're still at the moment going to hold Saturday. So let's see where we get tomorrow. We just have a lot of layovers left. So let's see what we can do tomorrow. But it was good work tonight. Thank you. Appreciate the respectful debate. We're plugging along. We're getting there. Let's do committee announcements. Any committee announcements? Chair recognizes Chair of Finance.
Finance will meet for voting at 9:15.
9:15 for Finance. Any other committees? Chair recognizes the Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thanks. I mentioned this in a committee earlier, but we'll keep it 9:30 for voting.
9:30 JPR. Chair recognizes anything for Budget and Tax? Chair recognizes the Chair of Budget and Tax.
Voting tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Ooh, 8:30, bright and early. Any other select committees, delegations? Anything else for the good of the... Yes, Chair recognizes the...
Just to be accurate, and we have a short hearing at 10:30.
And a hearing at 10:30. Voting at 8:30, hearing at 10:30. Thank you, Senator. Any further announcements? The Senator from Baltimore City, Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes. Senators, if we could please give the senators your attention.
No, I wanted to thank everyone, especially the statements that were made earlier tonight. Today is my birthday. Unfortunately, last night on my way home, I got a phone call that I would say my closest cousin had passed away. I looked at him. I grew up with two sisters, so I had no, other than my father, no male sibling, so he was the closest thing to a male sibling that I had. Carver graduate, Carver Votech in Baltimore City. Grew up in Sandtown, Winchester, of a number of neighborhoods that he grew up in. Someone who, if you got to know him, was one of the nicest people that you would want to meet. He also had some issues growing up in his life. A few years ago, I remember sitting on a house floor and getting a text from him that his brother was murdered in northeast Baltimore. That murder has gone unresolved even to this day. So he goes to glory not knowing or having that issue ever resolved. And it's something that he carried with him and certainly hurt him and put him in, I would say, some kind of way. Anyway, for those of you who know me, look at my legislation, you know I'm big on privacy, so I usually don't talk about this sort of thing. I keep these kind of things to myself. But it certainly makes celebrating a birthday somewhat difficult when you lose someone that you love. But I mean, he was someone who was also a constituent. So he worked my polls with me from day one since I ran, knocked doors with me. He's a husband, he's a father, and he was a son. And he was someone who enjoyed working. He worked at Atwaters in Catonsville. And I would just, I mean, he was gone too soon, but I thank God for at least giving him, or giving me 45 years with him. So I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity just to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for sharing, and our hearts go out to you.
His name was Hector Tavon Hendricks.
And we would love to, if the senator wouldn't mind, we'd love to adjourn in the memory of your cousin who clearly impacted your life in incredibly positive ways.
Mr. President?
Yes.
If I could.
Chair recognizes the senator from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I can just say, from my heart, and from not just the Republicans, but from the people here, if I could just say, I've been appointed a chaplain in the Republican Party, but my heart goes out to every person in this room. I pray for the chairs and the vice chairs, and I tell them that. And I know the time that what you're going through right now is very hard, because I can tell when you stood up and how you talked. But I'm going to tell you this, Senator. I'm praying for you, and I'm praying for your friend. And I pray more than anything that you'll get peace in your mind and in your heart through this time, and that the Lord will surround you with love. God bless you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for the reflection. All right. Let's do a quorum call before we adjourn.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 47 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Friday, March 19th at 11 a.m. in memory of Mr. Hector Hendricks.
Without objection, so ordered. Stay safe, get some rest. Big day tomorrow.